Chapter 4137. At the same time, in the depths of a mountain in the West Continent, in a valley, 3 people stood side by side. It was Qin Feiyang and the other 2. In the void in front of the 3 of them, the remnant souls of Tian Peng and the blood-winged sea god were suppressed by the law of life and death. They couldn't even self-destruct. You guys are simply lawless. Do you know who I am? Let me give you a piece of advice. Let me go immediately, or you'll have to bear the consequences. The blood-winged sea god roared. Qin Feiyang and the other 2 didn't say anything and just looked at him silently. As for Tian Peng, although he didn't shout, he was also full of resentment. After a while, the blood-winged sea god finally closed his mouth and looked at the 3 of them helplessly. He had already said good and bad words, but the 3 of them stood there like 3 pieces of wood and didn't say a word. They had nowhere to use their strength. Are you done? You don't have any strength left. That's enough. It's our turn now. The white-eyed wolf rubbed his hands and walked towards the remnant soul of the blood-winged sea god with a smirk. What do you want? You really don't want to live anymore, do you? The blood-winged sea god shouted in panic. I just don't want to live anymore. The white-eyed wolf immediately beat him up. Although the blood-winged sea god was only in the form of a remnant soul, he could still feel the heart-wrenching pain. Idiot! You've already fallen into our hands and you still dare to be arrogant. Aren't you looking for trouble? Longqin next to him had a mocking expression. What's so great about the beast god? They weren't even afraid of the dragon god, let alone a mere beast god. If you behave, you'll suffer less. Stop hitting me. Soon, begging for mercy was heard. The blood-winged sea god was speechless. He had finally seen what these people were capable of. Why didn't you do this earlier? I have to beat you up before you know how to behave. The white-eyed wolf clapped his hands and turned to Qin Feiyang. He bared his teeth and said, Hurry up, I can't wait. What do you mean? Tian Peng and the blood-winged sea god were surprised. An uneasy premonition arose in his heart. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and smiled at the ingrate. He looked at the heavenly Peng duo and asked, Did you leave your divine souls behind in the East Continent? When the 2 heard this, their expressions immediately became flustered. Bye. We did leave our divine souls in the East Continent, so even if you kill us, it's meaningless. So that's why you're so fearless. Bye. Qin Feiyang and the ingrate crossed their arms and revealed a playful smile. Leaving your divine soul can indeed save your life, but as long as your original body is not dead, the split divine soul will never be able to form a new divine soul and body. Qin Feiyang's eyes became more playful. What do you mean? Skyping was shocked. Do you think we will kill you directly? No. Not only will we not, but we will also treat you well. Qin Feiyang smiled. What do you want? Skyping roared. Treat. He would be a fool if he believed that. It's true. You are our distinguished guests. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, Fire Lotus, have you rebuilt Soul Sealing Valley? Not yet. Is it urgent? Fire Lotus's voice sounded in his mind. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and said, There's no hurry. You can deal with the aftermath first. Okay. Fire Lotus replied. Because they did not know that Qin Feiyang and Fire Lotus were secretly communicating, Qin Feiyang's silence made Sky Peng and Fire Lotus even more anxious. Let's go. I'll bring you to a place. Qin Feiyang looked at the 2 and smiled. He waved his hand and appeared in a stone room. This was one of the cultivation rooms in the castle. The reason why he brought them to the cultivation room was because he did not want them to know about the situation in the Black Tortoise world. Where is this place? The 2 looked around. A good place. Qin Feiyang smiled and whispered a few words in the white-eyed wolf's ear. The white-eyed wolf nodded and immediately turned to leave. Soon, the white-eyed wolf brought the mermaid princess to the cultivation room again. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, Madam, help to reconstruct their bodies. The mermaid princess looked at the 2 and suspiciously looked at Qin Feiyang before opening her Eye of Life. Eye of Life? The 2's eyes trembled. The owner of the Eye of Life was Qin Feiyang's woman. Also, why did he want to help them reconstruct their bodies? Did he really treat them as guests and want to entertain them? Not long after, The two's bodies were reconstructed. Even their qi was restored. Seeing that their qi was restored, the two immediately erupted with a terrifying aura. They tore through the seal and attacked the four people. Don't be in a hurry. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. The two raised their eyebrows. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and brought the white-eyed wolf, Longqin, mermaid princess, and Sky Peng to the sky above the valley outside. Don't say that I didn't give you a chance. The two of you can come alone or together. As long as you can defeat me, I will let you leave. Qin Feiyang looked at Sky Peng and the blood-winged sea god and smiled. The two were stunned and stared at Qin Feiyang, asking, really? A man's word is worth its weight in gold. Also, I won't activate the 3,000 incarnations, the law of life and death, and the eye of heaven. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. The white-eyed wolf and the other two were also enlightened. Originally, he reconstructed their bodies to test the power of the will of heaven. Suddenly, the three of them were looking forward to it. How powerful would the fusion of two wills of heaven be? Sky Peng and the blood-winged sea god looked at each other, and their eyes flashed fiercely. If Qin Feiyang activated the 3,000 incarnations, the law of life and death, and the eye of heaven, they really didn't have the strength to defeat Qin Feiyang. However, as long as he didn't activate the 3,000 incarnations, the law of life and death, and the eye of heaven, there was a high chance. Because Qin Feiyang's strongest means were the 3,000 incarnations, the law of life and death, and the eye of heaven. Apart from these three, the rest were similar to the others. Boom. Their bodies shook and a monstrous aura surged out. Don't fight here. You will hurt those innocent creatures. Go to the galaxy. If you defeat me, not only will I let you go, I will also give you the eye of heaven and the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death. Qin Feiyang smiled and pulled the mermaid princess towards the galaxy. What? He will give us the eye of heaven and the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death. Their eyes trembled. If they could get the eye of heaven and the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death, their strength would definitely be stronger than the dragon god and Neptune. That's not right. He's too confident. The blood-winged sea god was shocked. How is this confidence? I think he's just conceited. Tian Peng grunted. So, are we going to fight or not? The blood-winged sea god asked. Look at the golden-winged wolf king and Longqin. If we don't fight, will they let us go? Tian Peng sighed. Although Qin Feiyang and the mermaid princess had already flown towards the galaxy, the white-eyed wolf and Longqin were next to them. The white-eyed wolf and Longqin had also mastered the will of heaven, and were not weaker than them. If they chose to escape at this time, the two would definitely stop them. Most importantly, if they angered Qin Feiyang, the law of life and death, the eye of heaven and the 3,000 incarnations would all be activated and they would have no way to survive. Let's go. He already said that if we don't activate the law of life and death, the eye of heaven and the 3,000 incarnations, what are we afraid of? If we don't dare to fight, then as the beast god and the sea god, how can we live in the future? Tian Peng gritted his teeth and flew towards the galaxy. The blood-winged sea god also made up his mind and chased after him like lightning. The white-eyed wolf and Longqin looked at each other and followed unhurriedly. The galaxy. It was vast and boundless. Countless stars flashed with bright starlight. Qin Feiyang stopped in the depths of the galaxy and looked at the mermaid princess with a gentle smile. Go to the white-eyed wolf and Longqin. Then be careful. The mermaid princess warned, then turned around and flew to the white-eyed wolf and looked at Qin Feiyang worriedly. Don't worry. Little Qinzi is not someone these small fries can hurt. The white-eyed wolf grinned, and the disdain on his face was undisguised. Tian Peng and the blood-winged sea god couldn't help glaring at the white-eyed wolf when they heard this. Small fries? Who was he scolding? They were the beast god and the sea god. Which one of them didn't hold great power? Arrogant, right? Fine. After dealing with this conceited Qin Feiyang, I'll deal with you slowly. Tian Peng turned to look at Qin Feiyang and said in a deep voice, keep your word. Don't activate the 3,000 incarnations, eye of heaven, and the laws of life and death. Okay. As long as I activate it, I'll take it as my loss. Qin Feiyang nodded. Okay. Tian Peng laughed and spread his wings, causing a gust of wind to howl. Strands of power of laws surged out like a tide. At the same time, the blood-winged sea god's ordinary body also grew rapidly. In an instant, he turned into a giant with 9 pairs of blood-red wings on his back, as if they were cast in blood, exuding an astonishing murderous aura. Is this the true form of the Sea Clan? Why does it look like a monster? Longqin murmured. Not only did the blood-winged sea god have 9 pairs of blood-red wings on his back, but there were also blood-red fish scales on his body and face. At first glance, he looked really ferocious and scary. Boom. In the next moment, the power of laws also roared out of the blood-winged sea god's body. Both Tianpeng and the blood-winged sea god had 6 supreme laws. Kill. As the two of them roared, 12 ultimate profound meanings instantly appeared. The will of the heavenly Tao erupted, emitting a divine might that could destroy the heavens and extinguish the earth. It shook the Milky Way for billions of miles as it charged towards Qin Feiyang. Not bad, not bad. If Longqin hadn't promised to help me, I wouldn't have killed you. Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled. Chapter 4138. Without Longqin's help, he would not have been able to make Tianpeng and the blood-winged sea god hand over their ultimate mysteries. If he could not obtain the ultimate mysteries, he would naturally be reluctant to kill them. After all, they were powerhouses who had mastered the will of the heavenly Tao. If he could take them under his command, he would be able to increase his combat strength. But it was different now. With Longqin's soul-controlling technique, he did not need to waste his energy to subdue the two of them. Taking a step back, even if he could subdue them, he could not completely trust them. Looking at Pei Tianhong and the others again, these people were dead set on following him. As long as he could obtain enough ultimate mysteries, he could easily become a powerhouse who had mastered the will of the heavenly Tao. It was much easier than subduing Tianpeng and the blood-winged sea god. It's still unknown who will kill who now. When Tianpeng heard this, his eyes were full of sneers. It's good to be confident, but blind confidence is stupid. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. With a wave of his hand, the 6 strongest laws appeared out of nowhere. Haha. They are both ultimate mysteries, and they both have the will of the heavenly Tao. How can you fight with 2 powerhouses alone? Too self-righteous. The blood-winged sea god laughed wildly. Is that so? Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed, and the will of the heavenly Tao burst out. A mighty heavenly might suddenly like a tide, covering the sky and the earth, enveloping the galaxy. The will of the heavenly Tao. Tianpeng and the blood-winged sea god's laughter suddenly stopped. In their hearts, a sense of fear arose spontaneously. This will of the heavenly Tao was like the true power of the heavenly Tao. It was much stronger than their will of the heavenly Tao. At this moment, they were trapped in the heavenly might, as if they were facing a true heavenly Tao. In a trance, Qin Feiyang opposite them was the incarnation of the heavenly Tao. How is this possible? The will of the heavenly Tao is actually so much stronger than our will of the heavenly Tao? Could it be related to his tribulation? But even if another will of the heavenly Tao is integrated, it can't be so powerful? Both of their hearts trembled. What kind of monster was this? Boom. In a flash, the ultimate meanings of the 3 clashed together. This caused the heavenly rock and the blood-winged sea god to be even more direct. Their 12 ultimate profound meanings were actually unable to resist Qin Feiyang's 6 ultimate profound meanings in the slightest. Qin Feiyang's 6 ultimate profound meanings crushed through them like crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. I don't believe it. The two of them shook their heads frantically. Isn't this too outrageous? That's it. Qin Feiyang was taken aback. It was a little beyond imagination. Suddenly, he waved his hand, and 4 of the 6 ultimate profundities dissipated, leaving behind only the ultimate profundities of the law of destruction and the law of karma. Immediately after, he looked at Tianpeng and the blood-winged sea god and smiled. It's all right. Continue. Who are you looking down on? The two of them flew into a rage. Trying to defeat them with just 2 ultimate profound meanings? Boom. 12 ultimate meanings were unleashed once again. They carried a towering fury as they charged towards Qin Feiyang's 2 ultimate meanings. With a deafening boom, they collided once again. Immediately, the two of them were dumbfounded once again. Because at the moment of collision, All the ultimate meanings had dissipated. What did this mean? It meant Qin Feiyang only had 2 ultimate profound meanings, yet he was able to compete with their 12 ultimate profound meanings. In other words, if Qin Feiyang wanted to defeat them, he would only need 2 or 3 ultimate profound meanings. How big was the gap? He's too strong. White-Eyed Wolf and Long Qin were also dumbfounded. Judging from the current situation, after the fusion of the 2 wills of Heaven Dao, the power of the ultimate meanings had increased by 6 times. Because now, Qin Feiyang was able to fight against 6 ultimate profundities with just 1 ultimate profundity. Terrifying. What if he activated the law of life and death? Wouldn't it be even more shocking? Because the power of the law of life and death had far surpassed the ultimate meaning. This guy. Now, even if he doesn't activate the 3,000 incarnations and the Eye of Heaven, just the law of life and death and the various ultimate meanings of the ultimate meanings are enough to defeat the 10 supremacies of the human race. Long Qin smiled bitterly. No one would believe that a single person could defeat the 10 supremacies of the human race. But this was the truth. If Qin Feiyang were to unleash all of his abilities, he would likely be able to wipe out an entire race by himself. He was really too strong. He was more than a monster. He wasn't human at all. Not bad, not bad. Qin Feiyang was full of smiles. He was also very satisfied with the power of the will of Heaven Dao. The blood-winged sea god recovered and looked at Qin Feiyang. He said in a deep voice, "When you transcended the tribulation, did you really usher in the second will of Heaven Dao?" "That's right." Qin Feiyang nodded. The blood-winged sea god took a deep breath. 2 wills of Heaven Dao, unprecedented. Is this the benefit of comprehending the law of life and death? Tianping murmured. His eyes were full of jealousy. Comprehending the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death. A will of Heaven Dao descended. Comprehending the ultimate meaning of the 6 ultimate meanings. Another will of Heaven Dao descended. How could a human from the sky cloud realm have such amazing talent? Thinking about their divine kingdom, there were countless geniuses and geniuses, but so far, no one had been able to comprehend the law of life and death. Do you still want to fight? Qin Feiyang looked at the 2 and smiled. The 2 looked at each other. With just 2 ultimate meanings, he could compete with their 12 ultimate meanings. Was there any point in continuing to fight? Facing this person, they were no match for him at all. Then let's use the waist sea. Qin Feiyang said. Use the waist sea. The 2's eyes trembled. Wouldn't they fall into Qin Feiyang's hands again? This wouldn't do. They had to find a way to escape. Boom. Suddenly, a destructive aura rushed out of their bodies again. They wanted to self-destruct again. As long as they could successfully self-destruct, it was equivalent to escaping. Sigh. Why do we have to do such useless actions? Qin Feiyang shook his head. The kingdom of life and death was activated, and the will of Heaven Dao erupted. As expected, the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death became even more terrifying under the support of the will of heaven. The power of the kingdom of life and death was enough to crush an intermediate dominator divine weapon. The terrifying aura surged out. The 2 were trapped in the aura as if they had fallen into the abyss of hell. Their bodies and minds trembled, and they even forgot to self-destruct. Boom. As Qin Feiyang waved his hand, the kingdom of life and death attacked. Ah! With a scream, the 2 suffered fatal injuries. Not only was their sea of qi shattered again, but even their divine souls were torn apart. Qin Feiyang formed seals with both hands, and 2 puppet imprints appeared, entering their broken sea of consciousness at lightning speed. Very soon, the puppet technique controlled the 2 of them. In fact, to be honest, it only took 1 round. In 1 round, the 2 had lost the courage to fight. One could imagine how strong Qin Feiyang was now. In a one-on-one battle, except for the Dominator, no one in the Divine Kingdom was his opponent. So now, as long as he didn't face the encirclement of the major races, no one could threaten him. He could also try to see the true face of the Central Dynasty. He had always been curious about this Central Dynasty. Returning to the cultivation room again, and suppressing the 2, Qin Feiyang began to read their memories. At the same time, East Continent. A person covered in a black robe appeared in front of Neptune and the Dragon God. Greetings, Lord Dragon God. Greetings, Lord Neptune. The person bowed, his voice slightly hoarse. The two nodded. Neptune said, "Let me ask you, when Qin Feiyang and the other two appeared at Mount Supreme, what was the situation? You have to tell the truth. If you dare to lie, I will kill you." The dragon god followed, his eyes incomparably sinister. How would I dare to lie to Lord Dragon God? Qin Feiyang and the other two came to Mount Supreme to take revenge on us. Because Mount Supreme had been encircling them. At that time, the Great Venerable almost died in their hands, but when Tianpeng and the Bloodwing Sea God appeared, the three of them immediately changed their target. Especially Tianpeng. Qin Feiyang and the other two had the strongest killing intent. The black-robed man said. Neptune looked at the dragon god and asked, "What was the human race's sovereign's attitude at that time?" Seeing that the situation was bad, Sovereign told Tianpeng and the Bloodwing Sea God to leave immediately, and even blocked in front of Qin Feiyang and the other two to buy time for them to escape. So it's impossible to say that they colluded. Qin Feiyang and the other two also showed no mercy to Mount Supreme. If it wasn't for Sovereign, the Great Venerable might have died in their hands. The black-robed man said. Hearing this, Neptune turned to the dragon god and sighed. Now you know you've always wronged the human race's sovereign. No wonder he's so angry. The dragon god snorted coldly in response to Neptune's rebuke and didn't say anything. All right. Go back and continue to keep an eye on Mount Supreme. If there's any movement, immediately report to us. Neptune waved his hand. Understood. The black-robed man replied, then opened a space-time tunnel and left. Chapter 4139. The golden tiger looked at Neptune and the dragon god and asked carefully, "So should we apologize to the lord of the human race, or?" But before he finished, the dragon god stared at the golden tiger fiercely. The golden tiger shrunk his neck and lowered his head, not daring to say anything. Neptune looked at the golden tiger and shook his head. You really know how to talk. We've known each other for so long, but you still don't know the personality of the dragon god? How can he lower his head? The golden tiger smiled. Don't worry about the lord of the human race. I'll talk to him when I have time. The most important thing now is to find a way to save Tianpeng and Shui. Neptune said. One of the sea gods said solemnly. Tianpeng and Shui left their divine souls in the East Continent. They aren't afraid of dying, but they are afraid that Qin Feiyang won't kill them, and will continue to trap their true bodies. That's also what I'm worried about. I hope Qin Feiyang doesn't know that they left their divine souls in the East Continent. A beast god of the beasts said. As long as he didn't know, Qin Feiyang would definitely kill them. This way, they wouldn't need to rescue them. Then let's go find the Lord and the Divine King first. We need their help in this matter. Neptune said. But will they help us? In the past, when Qin Feiyang was dealing with the three races, the beast race and the sea race just watched from the sidelines. Now that it's our turn, I'm afraid that the god race and the purple gold divine dragon race may not lend us a helping hand. The golden tiger frowned. I don't think so. No matter what personal grudges we have, the Lord is the Lord of the divine kingdom after all. He won't be so willful, and he won't dare to be so willful. As for the divine king, the divine island has been destroyed twice. Jiang Yunshuang and the other two prodigies also died tragically at Qin Feiyang's hands. More than half of the direct descendants of the divine city also died at their hands. The divine king must hate Qin Feiyang and the others to the bone. Therefore, she must be eager to join forces with us now. Neptune smiled confidently. That makes sense. Everyone nodded in agreement. What they didn't know was that in the past, the divine king would have indeed joined forces with them. But now things were different. Right now, the divine king couldn't wait for the beast race and the sea race to never look for her again. Time flew by. Black Tortoise World. A year passed. That was right. Qin Feiyang spent a full year reading their memories. It couldn't be helped. Their memories were too vast. Furthermore, there couldn't be any mishaps with regards to the spies. Therefore, he read their memories in great detail. On this day, he took a deep breath and opened his eyes. Looking at the two suppressed people, he transmitted his voice. Castle, keep an eye on them. Don't let them run out of the cultivation room. After saying that, he disappeared. Tea garden. He sat alone at the stone table, drinking tea while recalling the information he had read. His brows were tightly knitted together. When Long Qin and White-Eyed Wolf noticed Qin Feiyang in the tea garden, they were stunned for a moment. They immediately entered the tea garden and smiled. Is it over? Of course, they couldn't accompany Qin Feiyang all the time. The mermaid princess had long gone into seclusion to fuse with the ultimate profound. Yes. Qin Feiyang came back to his senses and nodded at the two with a smile. Why do you look a little strange? Did you learn something unbelievable? Long Qin was suspicious. Qin Feiyang took a sip of tea, shook his head and sighed. Yes, I really didn't expect that they would be bribed by the dragon god and Neptune. Who is it? White-Eyed Wolf sat opposite Qin Feiyang with a curious look. You won't believe it even if I tell you. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Then tell us, don't keep us in suspense, okay? White-Eyed Wolf urged. His curiosity was getting stronger. There aren't many spies, only 6 in total. But these 6 people are all high-ranking people in the human race, god race, and purple gold divine dragon race. They can even be described as covering the sky with one hand. Qin Feiyang said. No way. So exaggerated. Could they be venerables? Long Qin was surprised. Because covering the sky with one hand was something only the venerables of the various races could do. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. White-Eyed Wolf and Long Qin looked at each other in shock. The next day, late at night, in the village, Boss Ji and a group of elders were sitting in a secret room. Qin Feiyang, White-Eyed Wolf, and Long Qin were also here. The 3 of them looked at the secret room. They didn't expect there to be such a secret place under the village. At the same time, Jijio stared at Qin Feiyang with a cold light in his eyes. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. Jiuyi, can you not look at me like that? I'm a little nervous. Why didn't I see you nervous when you snatched my tea tree? Jijio sneered. This? Didn't I say that I won't take it for free? In the future, I will be filial to you and pour tea for you. Qin Feiyang smiled. Jijio rolled his eyes. Do I need you to pour tea for me? He frowned and said, but speaking of which, why are you here in the middle of the night and so mysterious? What's the matter? I'll tell you when the monarch, the divine king, and the supreme being are here. Qin Feiyang said with a serious face. That's right. The matter of the spy was of great importance. So he had to call the monarch and the other 2 over and explain it in person. The reason why they chose to meet in this place was that it was safer than other places. A moment later, the monarch and the other 2 finally entered the secret room. Greetings, elders. The divine king and the supreme being of the human race were also very respectful to these elders. There's no need for formalities. Boss Ji waved his hand and smiled. He pointed to the 3 chairs next to him and said, have a seat. The 3 of them walked over and sat on the chairs. They also looked at Qin Feiyang and the other 2 suspiciously. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and looked at the 3 of them. I found out about the spy. So fast. The 3 of them were stunned. Qin Feiyang said, I'm afraid this result will disappoint you and also make you disappointed. You have to be mentally prepared. So, there really are spies? The divine king frowned. If there aren't any, why did we call you here? The White-Eyed Wolf was speechless. Speak. What kind of storms have we not experienced? The supreme being of the human race spoke. Although he said it casually, his voice was trembling. The group of elders also frowned and looked at Qin Feiyang and the other 2. Let's talk about the human race first. The 2 spies of the human race are the 3rd Supremacy and the head of the Law Enforcement Hall. Qin Feiyang said. What? The supreme being of the human race suddenly stood up with a face full of disbelief. Whether it was the 3rd Supremacy or the head of the Law Enforcement Hall, they were both existences of the supreme being mountain. They were actually spies of the sea race and the beast race? When I first learned about this, I also found it hard to believe. Although I've never seen the head of the Law Enforcement Hall, I remember the 3rd Supremacy. When I was in the West Continent and looted the Spirit Vein and Crystal Vein, he was ordered to invite us to Mountain Supreme. His attitude back then was quite polite. And he treated the people in the city well. But I never thought he was such a person. Qin Feiyang sighed. Hearing this, the monarch and the divine king turned to the supreme being of the human race and sighed. Calm down. Don't be angry because of 2 spies. It's not worth it. How can I not be angry? I treat them like how I treat my own brothers. When I got those pills to unlock the door of potential, the first thing I thought of was them, but they betrayed me. The supreme being of the human race clenched his fists. The monarch and the divine king looked at each other and felt nervous. If the spies of the human race were the third supremacy and the head of the law enforcement hall, then what about the god race and the purple gold divine dragon race? Their status was probably not low. After the supreme being of the human race calmed down, Qin Feiyang looked at the divine king and said, "And the god race?" The divine king's heart was in his throat. Please don't let it be those people she valued. Qin Feiyang sighed. One is the city lord of the divine city, and the other is the 10 supremacies of the god race. The god king's expression froze. Although she had been mentally prepared, she still couldn't accept this result. The city lord of the divine city, the 10 supremacies. What was the difference between them and the third supremacy, and the head of the law enforcement hall? They were all people of high status and power. The 10 supremacies, Qin Feiyang also had a deep impression of them. Back then, when he first entered the Divine Island, the 10 supremacies were guarding the Divine Island. Jiang Yuquan and Jiang Yunshuang, who died in the hands of Long Chun, were all descendants of the 10 supremacies. The sea race and the beast race really put in a lot of effort. The people they bought are all so powerful. Jijiu looked at the divine king and the supreme being of the human race and sighed. These damn bastards, I'll kill them. The divine king shouted angrily. He was full of killing intent. These were not just people she valued, they were all her trusted aides, but they had all betrayed her. Wait. The 10 supremacies betraying the god race, does it have anything to do with you killing Jiang Yuquan and Jiang Yunshuang? Jijiu looked at Qin Feiyang and the other 2 and asked. No. The 10 supremacies were bought many years ago. Qin Feiyang shook his head. What about Jiang Qianwu, Jiang Yuquan, and Jiang Yunshuang? The divine king asked. Qin Feiyang said. Although they are the descendants of the 10 supremacies, they don't know the relationship between the 10 supremacies and the sea race and the beast race. The divine king breathed a sigh of relief. The monarch looked at the divine king and Jijiu, then looked at Qin Feiyang and said, Now, let's talk about the spies of the purple gold divine dragon race. The group of old people also held their breaths and looked at Qin Feiyang. The spies of the purple gold divine dragon race are not among the 10 supremacies. Qin Feiyang said. That's good. The monarch and the group of old people all let out a long breath. As long as they were not at this level, it was fine. But Qin Feiyang changed the topic. The monarch and the group of old people were stunned, and their hearts were in their mouths again. Just the word, but alone was enough to make people shudder in fear. Brother, let's talk. The white-eyed wolf looked at Qin Feiyang, the monarch and the group of old people, and said, The 2 spies of the purple gold divine dragon race are Old Wu and Ji Tianfeng. What? As soon as he said that, the monarch and the group of old people all stood up, their eyes full of disbelief. Chapter 4140. The divine king and the king were also in disbelief. Of course they knew about Ji Tianfeng and Old Wu. Let's talk about Ji Tianfeng first. This person was Ji Yunhai's biological son, and the king's nephew. This was a true family member. Blood was thicker than water. Then there was Old Wu. In the purple gold divine dragon clan, he also had a superior status, and was deeply trusted by the king. But now these 2 people actually betrayed the king and became spies for the Sea clan and the Beast clan? The world was really unpredictable. In the secret chamber, there was dead silence. The king and the group of old people were all heartbroken. The purple gold divine dragon clan had so many clansmen. Why did it have to be these 2? Qin Feiyang sighed softly and looked at the king. I read Tianping's memories and learned that Old Wu is not a member of the purple gold divine dragon clan. Hearing this, the king and the group of old people returned to their chairs one after another, and remained silent. Old Wu is indeed not a purple gold divine dragon. The human clan supreme being nodded. Qin Feiyang and the other 2 looked at the human clan supreme being. The human clan supreme being pondered for a while and explained to the three of them. Old Wu is actually a human, but the king treats him very well because Old Wu once saved Ji Tianyue. Saved the ancestor? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Yes. The human clan supreme being nodded and recalled the past with a smile. Ji Tianyue was very naughty when she was young and often sneaked out alone. Naughty. Qin Feiyang and the other two looked at each other. There was such an interesting thing. Once, she ran out alone and accidentally entered a forbidden area. That forbidden area is naturally nothing in our eyes, but for a little girl like her, it was a place where she had a slim chance of survival. In the end, Old Wu saved her by coincidence and brought her out of the forbidden area. This girl has been the king's pearl since she was young. He treats her better than Heavenly Lord Ji. Therefore, seeing that Old Wu was alone, he took the initiative to invite Old Wu to stay in the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan. Ji Tianyue also liked this savior very much, so Old Wu stayed in the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan and taught her cultivation. Of course, the monarch is not a foolish person. He secretly investigated Old Man Wu's identity. He was indeed a lonely old man with no one to rely on. Moreover, he usually treated Ji Tianyue as well as his own granddaughter. Slowly, the monarch let down his guard. In the end, I even treated him like a father. But the world is unpredictable. Who would have thought that he would betray the king and become a spy for the sea race and the beast race in the Purple Gold Divine Dragon race? The human autarch sighed. I see. The white-eyed wolf suddenly understood. He turned to look at Qin Feiyang and sighed. If the old ancestor knew that her master was a spy for the sea race and the beast race, I wonder how sad she would be. Yeah. Fortunately, the old ancestor is not here. Qin Feiyang nodded. The monarch took a deep breath and calmed the anger in his heart. Appearing extremely calm, he asked, "Then do you know why Ji Tianfeng and Old Wu betrayed our Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan?" The calmer it was, the scarier it was. Everyone could feel a dangerous aura from the monarch. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded and looked at the monarch and the group of elders, saying, "Speaking of which, it has something to do with your clan rules." Clan rules? The group of elders was stunned. Yes. This rule is the inheritance of the 3,000 incarnations. Qin Feiyang looked at the monarch and said, "You and Ji Yunhai are brothers. As your brother, you can inherit the 3,000 incarnations, but Ji Yunhai can't. As Ji Yunhai's son, Ji Tianfeng is even less qualified. So, after seeing Ji Tianjun and Ji Tianyue inherit the 3,000 incarnations, Ji Tianfeng felt extremely unbalanced." I see. Everyone nodded. Bloodline is only one of the 3,000 incarnations. It mainly depends on talent. Ji Tianfeng's talent isn't even 1% of Ji Tianjun and Ji Tianyue's. What right does he have to inherit the 3,000 incarnations? Ji Laosher grunted. Even so, Ji Yunhai and the monarch are brothers. Seeing the monarch's people inherit the 3,000 incarnations, Ji Tianfeng will definitely feel uncomfortable. Qin Feiyang said. What about Ji Yunhai? The monarch asked. Ji Yunhai has nothing to do with this. And he doesn't know that Ji Tianfeng has become a member of the Beast Race and Sea Clan. Actually, the Beast Race and Sea Clan did want to find Ji Yunhai. However, when Qin Feiyang said this, his expression became extremely strange. However, the monarch was suspicious. Cough cough. Ji Yunhai's talent might not be that good. The Sea Clan and Beast Race didn't take a fancy to him, so they found his son, Ji Tianfeng. Qin Feiyang coughed dryly. The monarch's mouth twitched and he smiled bitterly. My brother's talent is indeed not that good. Since I became the monarch, I have been giving him resources. It can be said that the resources I gave him exceeded the Ji siblings. But in the end, Ji Tianjun has already grasped the will of the heavenly Tao, and he has only comprehended 2 supreme laws. If these things didn't happen to you, and she wasn't sealed for so many years, I reckon she would have already grasped the will of the heavenly Tao by now. You have to know that the siblings are still just juniors. The monarch sighed incessantly. He had a look of disappointment on his face. Qin Feiyang didn't dare to doubt this, because back then, the old ancestor had given Yun Xiang 3 supreme laws' ultimate mysteries. The old ancestor had already comprehended these three supreme laws' ultimate mysteries when the divine kingdom first invaded the sky cloud realm. Because during the period of being sealed, she couldn't comprehend the law's ultimate mysteries. Moreover, during the years of being sealed, she forcefully cultivated Yun Xiang and the masked Shura into two peerless geniuses, which showed how deep her comprehension of the law's ultimate mysteries was. As for Ji Tianfeng, in comparison, his talent is indeed better than his father, Ji Yunhai. But compared to the geniuses of the divine kingdom, it's not worth mentioning at all. Not to mention the human clan and the god clan. Even the purple gold divine dragon clan has a lot of people who are more talented than him. Besides, grandfather and the others have the final say about inheriting the 3,000 incarnations. I don't have the right to decide. The monarch shook his head. Are you blaming us now? Boss Ji frowned. How would I dare? The monarch smiled bitterly. Rules are rules. If Ji Tianfeng betrays the purple gold divine dragon clan because of this, he doesn't deserve to be my descendant. Boss Ji snorted and his eyes were filled with anger. The monarch frowned. But the problem now is that Ji Tianfeng has already obtained the inheritance of the 3,000 incarnations. What? Qin Feiyang, the monarch, and the human clan supremes all looked at the monarch in surprise. Didn't he say that Ji Tianfeng wasn't qualified? Why did he say that he had already obtained the inheritance of the 3,000 incarnations? At the same time, Boss Ji and the other old people also looked at the monarch in shock. The monarch looked at Qin Feiyang and the others, then looked at the old people and sighed. Ji Yunhai was very uncomfortable when Dong Xingyang took away Ji Shaoi's Eye of Destiny last time. In order to settle this matter, I made an exception and let Ji Yunhai, Ji Tianfeng, and Ji Shaoi go to the land of inheritance to receive the inheritance of the 3,000 incarnations. What? Why didn't you tell us about such an important thing in advance? You've really grown up now. You even dare to make decisions on your own? Boss Ji and the other old people were enraged. Something happened today. The remaining two will be released at 11. Chapter 41-41. I also want to say that. But I was afraid that you would blame me, so I delayed it until now. The king lowered his head, like a child who had done something wrong. The supremes and god kings of the human race had long since gotten used to this scene. But Qin Feiyang and the other two couldn't help but laugh secretly. Delay? Do you think we won't blame you if you delay it until later? Let me tell you. You didn't have the right to decide before, and you don't even have the right now. Because you're already the king, no longer the clan leader of the purple gold divine dragons. Speaking of which, you're already an outsider. Ji Lauer said angrily. Second master, you're being too serious. Although I'm the king now, the blood flowing in my body is still the purple gold dragon. The king hurriedly said. Don't talk nonsense with me. When we go back, call Heavenly Lord Ji here. I'd like to ask how he became the clan leader. He didn't even tell us about such an important matter. If he doesn't want to be the clan leader, he should replace him as soon as possible. Ji Lauer snorted. Don't. Jun listened to me and was instigated by me. This has nothing to do with him. If you want to beat or scold him, come at me. I won't fight back. The king hurriedly said. He had the most right to speak about the temper of this group of old people. If he really had such thoughts, he would have removed Heavenly Lord Ji from the position of clan leader. No one dared to say anything. Do you dare to fight back? Ji Lauer glared at him. I don't dare. The king smiled. I think you're itching for a beating. Ji Lauer glared at him. Second brother, things have already become like this. Why are you still talking about this? Ninth master looked at Ji Lauer unhappily and said to the king. You really didn't think about this matter. Do you know why we're so strict about the inheritance of the 3,000 bodies? We're worried that the inheritance will be given to someone with bad intentions, and the 3,000 bodies will fall into the hands of outsiders. That's right. We're afraid of meeting someone like Ji Tianfeng. If he gives the 3,000 bodies to the beast race and the sea race, do you know what consequences we'll face? We're not inconsiderate. It's not indifference. We are protecting the status of the purple gold divine dragons in the divine kingdom, because the 3,000 incarnations are our greatest reliance. Tell me now, did you not do something extremely stupid? Ji Laosan and the others also spoke out. Yes, yes, yes. The king hurriedly nodded his head. Actually, he felt very wronged in his heart. I didn't know that Ji Tianfeng had betrayed the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan. If I had known, would I have let him inherit the 3,000 incarnations? Like this. Master Jijio pondered for a moment, then looked at the monarch and said, Call Ji Tianfeng over immediately. Isn't Feiyang able to read the memories of those who step in? Later, I'll let Feiyang read his memories and see if the 3,000 clones have been leaked to the beast race and sea race. Furthermore, I believe that whether it's us, the Divine King, or the paragon of the human race, we are all extremely shocked by this matter. Just in time to call Ji Tianfeng over and verify this matter. He was not suspecting that Qin Feiyang was lying, but this matter was too shocking, so he wanted to confirm it himself. In short, in his heart, he was just holding on to a glimmer of hope. He did not want his descendants to do such a thing to betray the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan. What about Yunhai and Ji Shaoi? The king asked. Master Jijio waved his hand and said, Since they have nothing to do with this matter, then there's no need to alarm them first. Okay. The king nodded, immediately got up, and opened a space-time passage. Wait a moment. Qin Feiyang stopped the king and asked, You haven't helped Ji Tianfeng open the gate of potential yet, right? No. The king shook his head and glanced at Master Ji and the others. There was an unspeakable bitterness in his eyes. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but laugh. It seemed that these pills to open the gate of potential were really in the hands of old people like Master Ji. Even the king had no right to use them. What are you looking at? Hurry up and get lost. Master Ji scolded. He didn't show any mercy to this grandson of his at all. Okay. The king nodded and entered the space-time passage with a bitter face. The deity king looked at the monarch who was in a sorry state and transmitted his voice with a smile. Are you not used to seeing this scene? It's okay. I just find it interesting. The king, the most powerful person in the divine kingdom, is being taught a lesson like a child. Qin Feiyang laughed secretly. What's this? Let me tell you, after he became the king, he became a little arrogant. In the end, he angered these old people, and was directly pressed to the ground and beaten up. That's what I call embarrassing. The divine king began to gossip. Really? Qin Feiyang and the other two asked secretly, somewhat in disbelief. Of course. The human supremacy, and I saw it with our own eyes. From then on, in our hearts, these old people were existences that we can't provoke. The divine king said secretly. The human supremacy at the side also agreed. So, we're considered lucky? The white-eyed wolf was stunned. What do you mean? The divine king and the human supremacy looked at him suspiciously. When we came here, we secretly took away 40 tea trees of 9th Master Ji. The white-eyed wolf laughed dryly. Tea trees? You're not talking about the tea trees on the back mountain, are you? The two of them were surprised. Yes. The white-eyed wolf replied. The two of them looked at each other. The tea trees on the back mountain were 9th Master Ji's lifeblood. This group of reckless brats dared to have ideas about those tea trees? It was really a miracle that they could sit here alive. Amazing. The human supremacy secretly gave a thumbs up. Not to mention 40 tea trees, even if it was a tea leaf, he wouldn't dare to touch it. I really admire your courage. But then again, the best tea in 9th Master's tea garden is the Bodhi Divine Tea. Did you take a few with you? The Divine King said secretly, his eyes flashing. Are you kidding me? The Bodhi Divine Tea is the tea tree that 9th Master cares about the most. If they dared to touch it, would they still have the chance to sit here? The human supremacy shook his head. Well, we took 2. Qin Feiyang laughed dryly. Just 2. The human supremacy instinctively spoke, but suddenly realized that something was wrong. He stood up and looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. 2? Are you sure you're not joking? This sudden turn of events made the group of old men look at the human tribe's supremacy in confusion. The human supremacy reacted and hurriedly waved his hand. Sorry, I was rude. With that, he hurriedly returned to his chair. That's ridiculous. The group of old people was speechless. The human supremacy smiled awkwardly at the group of old people and said telepathically, "Brat, are you sure you took 2 Bodhi divine trees?" "Yes," Qin Feiyang secretly replied. The human supremacy and the divine king gasped. It was said that there were a total of 6 Bodhi divine trees in this tea garden. Now that 2 of them were taken away, wouldn't Ninth Master Ji be heartbroken? Most importantly, he didn't even look for Qin Feiyang and the others to settle the score. Thinking of this, the 2 of them were shocked. It seemed that this group of old people valued Qin Feiyang and the others very much, because if this happened to them, even if they were the human supremacy and the divine king of the God clan, this group of old people wouldn't let them go. The divine king rolled his eyes and secretly chuckled. "Well, Qin Feiyang, you see, we've formed an alliance now, right?" Qin Feiyang was slightly taken aback. He looked at the divine king suspiciously and said telepathically, "Senior, if you have any orders, please tell me directly." "You're really sensible." The divine king secretly smiled and said, "This Bodhi divine tea, I've tasted it once when I came here as a guest, and it was the Bodhi leaf at that time. As for this Bodhi fruit, I've never tried it, so you see." Qin Feiyang understood in his heart. He then looked at the human race prime and saw a hint of desire on his face. Qin Feiyang thought to himself, "No problem, it's a small matter. I'll get Huolian to prepare it for the 2 of you." The 2 of them smiled. Such a sensible child was really likable. At the same time, Fire Lotus received the telepathic message and immediately got busy. Ji Laosher suddenly looked at Qin Feiyang and asked excitedly, "Kid, I heard that you fused with 2 wills of the heavenly Tao. Are you very strong now?" Immediately, the other old people also looked at Qin Feiyang. "Yes. As for whether I'm strong or not, I definitely can't be compared with you." Qin Feiyang laughed. "Don't flatter me." Ji Laosher rolled his eyes at him and said with a smile, "Then when should we have a match?" "Ha!" Qin Feiyang was stunned and said with a wry smile, "If it's just you alone, I'm very willing to spar, but if you all come together, then I'd better just admit defeat." Although the will of the heavenly Tao had now doubled, one had to know that the 15 old people in front of him all controlled 3,000 incarnations, and the will of the heavenly Tao. If they joined forces, then no matter how strong he was, he would only be beaten up. "What did you say? As if we're bullying you. When did you say that we're going to fight together?" Ji Laosher was displeased. "Ah," Qin Feiyang laughed dryly. "Then how strong is your will of the heavenly Tao now?" Ji Jiu asked. Qin Feiyang said, "On the original basis, it increased by 6 times. Gasp! As soon as these words came out, everyone sucked in a breath of air. The fusion of 2 wills of the heavenly Tao. Wouldn't that be 12 times? Then with the law of life and death, it would be 18 times. This, 18 times, in other words, Qin Feiyang was now able to fight 18 powerhouses of the same realm alone. This was too strong. With such a careful calculation, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but be stunned. In that case, could he also agree to these 15 old people in front of him now? At this moment, a space-time passage appeared. Everyone looked over and saw the monarch walking out with a middle-aged young man of about 30 years old. Ji Tianfeng? Qin Feiyang and the other 2 looked at this person. This person was wearing a purple gold robe, and his facial features were quite similar to Ji Yunhai's. Although his aura was not very strong, his overall temperament was not bad. Qin Feiyang? Longqin, Golden-Winged Wolf King? The supreme of the human race. Divine King? And these old men? Ji Tianfeng entered the secret room and looked at the group of people sitting in front of him, and was stunned on the spot. Chapter 41-42. The king went to look for him, but he didn't say where he was going? In other words, he didn't know in advance that he was going to come to this village. He didn't know that the divine king, the human race sovereign, and Qin Feiyang were also here. This made him instantly realize that something was wrong, because the people gathered here were all super experts who had grasped the will of the heavenly Tao. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that they could cover the sky with one hand. More importantly, as enemies of the divine kingdom, Qin Feiyang and the other 2 were actually sitting here calmly with the divine king, the human race sovereign, and a group of old men. Could this be a good thing? Greetings, divine king sovereign. Greetings, great-grandpas and great-grandmas. Ji Tianfeng bowed with fear and trepidation. Boss Ji pointed at Qin Feiyang and the other two and asked, "Do you still need me to introduce these people to you?" "No need, no need." Ji Tianfeng hurriedly waved his hand. Boss Ji said, "Then say it yourself." "Say what?" Ji Tianfeng looked at Boss Ji suspiciously, trying his best to remain calm. "Don't you know what you want to say?" Ji Laosher's temper was a little fiery as he slammed his palm on the table and said angrily. Ji Tianfeng trembled and said in panic, "I really don't know what to say. Please enlighten me, great-grandpa." "You're about to die, yet you're still stubborn. All right. I'll give you a reminder, Beast Race C-Clan." Ji Laosher stared at him gloomily. Upon hearing the words Beast Race and C-Clan, Ji Tianfeng's body trembled, and he felt uneasy. Why did he mention the Beast Race and C-Clan? Could it be, suddenly? He shuddered as if a bolt from the blue had struck him, and his mind rumbled. "Do you need me to remind you again? You only have one chance. Tell me the truth, and I can consider sparing your dog life." Ji Laosher said in a deep voice. Ji Tianfeng's mind was in a mess. What was going on? Why did these old men know these secrets? Could it be that the Beast Race and C-Clan had betrayed him? But that was impossible. The Beast Race and C-Clan didn't do anything good for themselves. Wait. Suddenly, he glanced at Qin Feiyang and the other two from the corner of his eyes. Could it be related to these three people? Thinking of this, he looked at the group of elders and said angrily, "Great-grandfather, great-grandmother, don't listen to their slanderous words. I didn't collude with the Sea Race or the Beast Race. You have to believe me." However, hearing this, the group of elders was furious. The Divine King was also enraged. "Ji Tianfeng, you're really stupid. Did the old man say that you were colluding with the Sea Race and the Beast Race? Isn't this equivalent to confessing without being pressed?" The Divine King shook his head. The moment Ji Tianfeng heard this, he finally reacted and was immediately stunned. How did it become like this? Originally, this old man still had a trace of hope. But now, it seems that this old man was too naive. Boss Ji sighed. "Great-grandfather, let me explain." Ji Tianfeng's body trembled as he hurriedly cried out. "All right." Boss Ji nodded and took a deep breath. "I'll give you a chance to explain. It was the Sea Race and the Beast Race who forced me to do this. They said that if I didn't cooperate with them, they would kill my wife and children. I was also forced. Great-grandfather, you have to believe me." Ji Tianfeng knelt on the ground and begged. "Forced you? Haha." As soon as these words came out, Boss Ji was so angry that he laughed. The other elders and the king also had a look of disappointment. "Did I say something wrong again?" Ji Tianfeng was flustered. "You did say something wrong. With the status of the purple gold divine dragon race in the divine kingdom, even if the Beast Race and the Sea Race have the ruler behind them, would they dare to threaten you? Moreover, you are the nephew of the king. They threatened you. Aren't they afraid that the king will settle the score with them? So the Beast Race and the Beast Race are not stupid to this extent." Longqin looked at Ji Tianfeng and said disdainfully. Hearing this, Ji Tianfeng's face turned pale, and his entire body collapsed to the ground weakly. He was usually a smart person. Why was he making mistakes again and again? What a fool. In fact, it was caused by nervousness. Because this was too sudden, he was caught off guard. So when faced with these problems, he would naturally make one low-level mistake after another. Now there's nothing to say. Boss Ji sighed, his eyes full of disappointment. He turned to Qin Feiyang and said, "Read his memory." "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded. A puppet imprint appeared. Ji Tianfeng immediately quivered and hurriedly got up. A group of people rushed towards the secret room, preparing to escape. "Umph." The king snorted, grabbed Ji Tianfeng's clothes, and directly pulled him back. Then he slapped Ji Tianfeng's lower abdomen, shattering his energy sea on the spot. "Ah!" After a scream, Ji Tianfeng roared. "You can't do this to me. You are already very unfair to our bloodline. Can't you allow us to resist?" "Unfair? You have to feel your conscience when you say this. Whether it is your father, you or your son Ji Shaoyi, I have never been stingy in terms of resources. In fact, I treat you better than Junior and his sister. The king said in a deep voice. Good? Is it good to give a little favor? What is the most important thing for the purple gold divine dragon clan? That is the 3,000 incarnations. But among us 3 generations, who has obtained 3,000 incarnations? This is what you mean by fairness? Ji Tianfeng roared. Since he had already been exposed, there was no way he could survive. Naturally, he was not so afraid of the king. Don't use the 3,000 incarnations as an excuse. In this old man's opinion, you are born to be rebellious. The angry Ji Laosher slapped Ji Tianfeng. Ji Tianfeng screamed again and slammed into the wall of the secret room, blood spurting out. What right do you have to say that I am born to be rebellious? I refuse to accept this. Even if I betrayed the purple gold divine dragon clan, it was also forced by you old farts. Ji Tianfeng was hysterical. Presumptuous. The king roared. What else do I not dare to say now? Ji Tianfeng sneered coldly and looked at the group of old men as he said, You all are selfish. Similarly, they are all your direct bloodline relatives, but the treatment is worlds apart. Just take the position of the purple gold divine dragon clan's patriarch for example. After eldest uncle steps down, shouldn't my father inherit it? Why is it Heavenly Lord Ji's turn? On what basis? Don't you know? Among you 3 generations, whether it is talent, strength, or ability, who can compare to Heavenly Lord Ji? Ji Laoer snorted coldly. That is because they have 3,000 incarnations. If they let us inherit the 3,000 incarnations from the beginning, we can also have such achievements. Ji Tianfeng roared. He still pushed all of this to the 3,000 incarnations. 3,000 incarnations is just a means to kill the enemy. What does it have to do with talent and ability? Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed. Shut up. Do you have the right to speak here? Why are you here? I understand. So you have already colluded with Qin Feiyang. Neptune and the dragon god's suspicions are all true. And the divine king, the sovereign of the human race, you have also colluded with Qin Feiyang. To think that you spoke so righteously in front of the dragon god and Neptune at Mount Supreme. How hypocritical. Ji Tianfeng scanned everyone present with a face full of ridicule. The divine king and the sovereign of the human race raised their eyebrows. There was anger in their hearts. However, in front of the king and a group of old men, they couldn't flare up. Haha. How ridiculous. The ruler of the 3 major races actually colluded with Qin Feiyang. You are betraying the divine kingdom. And I, even if I cooperate with the sea race and the beast race, in the end, I am still loyal to the divine kingdom and the sovereign. Compared to your betrayal, what is this? So, what right do you have to teach me a lesson? Just you wait, the sovereign will not let you go. Sooner or later, you will be destroyed. Ji Tianfeng laughed wildly. Bastard. Simply unreasonable. Ji Laosher couldn't hold it in anymore. He stepped forward and slapped him again. Ji Tianfeng screamed as his head exploded on the spot. Blood spurted out, making him look disgusting at this moment. We cooperated with Qin Feiyang for the future of our 3 major races. Because we don't want to be pawns in the hands of the sovereign anymore. And we don't want the fate of our 3 major races to be controlled by the sovereign. And you, everything you did was for your own selfish desires. What right do you have to compare with us? Just because of your words that will destroy the 3 major races, you won't be able to escape death today. Ji Laosher was heartbroken. How could there be such a descendant? Then he turned to look at Qin Feiyang and said in a deep voice, Do it. Qin Feiyang nodded. The puppet imprint entered Ji Tianfeng's head like lightning. Ji Tianfeng struggled with all his might. But previously, Ji Laosher's slap not only shattered his head, but also severely injured his divine soul and sea of consciousness, so his struggle was futile. Soon, Qin Feiyang was able to successfully control it, and immediately read the recent memories. The reason why he only read the recent memories was because Ji Tianfeng had just obtained the 3,000 incarnations, so he didn't need to read all of their memories. Not long after, Qin Feiyang opened his eyes, looked at the king and the group of elders, and said with a smile, During the time when he obtained the 3,000 incarnations, he did come into contact with the dragon god and Neptune a few times, but he did not mention the 3,000 incarnations. That's good. The group of elders and the king heaved a sigh of relief, especially the king. If the 3,000 incarnations really fell into the hands of the Sea Clan and the Beast Clan, then he would become a sinner of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan. The group of elders in front of him would definitely tear him apart. The Divine King asked. Then by his side, are there any trusted aides who are also colluding with him? That's not it. After all, betraying the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan is such a big matter. He wouldn't dare to easily pull others into his group. Qin Feiyang shook his head. The Divine King nodded, looked at the king and said, "Then tell me, how should we deal with this person?" Regarding this question, Qin Feiyang and the other two all remained silent. Because Ji Tianfeng was a direct descendant of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan, how to deal with him was up to the king and the group of elders to decide. They had no right to interfere. Chapter 41-43. At the same time, when they really began to face this problem, the angry monarch and the group of elders also fell silent. Their mood was very complicated. As Boss Ji's grandson, Ji Tianfeng was naturally their direct descendant. If they killed him on the spot, they couldn't bear it. But if they didn't kill him, it would be difficult to relieve the hatred in their hearts. Moreover, based on Ji Tianfeng's previous performance, he didn't have the slightest remorse. If they continued to keep him, he might become a disaster in the future. Ji Jiu looked up at Boss Ji and said, "Big brother, you decide." "Yes. He is from your bloodline, we respect your decision." Ji Lauer and the others also expressed their stance. Boss Ji looked at the group of people, then looked at Ji Tianfeng who was paralyzed on the ground, and sighed. "If you don't remove the roots, it will grow again when the spring breeze blows. Now is the critical moment, there can't be the slightest mistake. Let's kill him directly to avoid future troubles. Then, when the time comes, how will we explain to Yunhai?" The monarch asked. "Tell me the truth. If Ji Yunhai still has the heart to protect our Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan, he will agree with our approach." Boss Ji said. "All right." The monarch nodded. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed, looked at the monarch and the group of elders and said, "Since we have decided to kill him, then I have a suggestion." "What suggestion?" The monarch and the others looked at him suspiciously. "Since he's going to die anyway, why don't we let him play the last of his value and make up for his mistakes, and make a final contribution to the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan? And my suggestion can also cover up his betrayal of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan. In this way, not only can we protect his reputation, but we can also stop the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan from panicking," Qin Feiyang said. "Panicking?" The monarch was stunned. Where did this come from? "Yes, panicking. Think about it, if the news of Ji Tianfeng's betrayal spread in the clan, how will the clansmen react? It will definitely be panic. At that time, they will all let their imaginations run wild. Will there be other spies hiding? If that's the case, it will definitely cause a lot of disturbances in the future, and affect the unity of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan," Qin Feiyang said. "Makes sense." The monarch nodded. He hadn't thought about it yet. He also admired Qin Feiyang's mind for thinking so far ahead. Furthermore, you have to consider Ji Yunhai and Ji Shaoyi. Although Ji Tianfeng's betrayal has nothing to do with them, Ji Tianfeng is their relative after all. If Ji Tianfeng's betrayal is exposed, how will the world talk about them behind their backs? Not only can my suggestion cover up this matter, it can also mold Ji Tianfeng into a hero, and let Ji Tianfeng be openly buried in your Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan's ancestral land. Qin Feiyang smiled. Buried in the ancestral land? He's just a traitor. What right does he have? I don't agree. Boss Ji objected immediately. Great-grandfather, I know how you feel. But think about it. Ji Tianfeng committed such a grave mistake. Not only did we help him cover it up and protect his reputation, we even buried him in the ancestral grounds. What would Ji Yunhai think when the time comes? He will definitely be grateful to all of you. You don't want Ji Yunhai to hate all of you because of Ji Tianfeng's death, and there will be another traitor, Qin Feiyang said. I think Qin Feiyang has a point. This matter is a great humiliation to the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan. We will try our best to cover it up. Boss G nodded, then looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, "So what is your suggestion?" "Send Ji Tianfeng's body to the East Continent." Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. "Send it to the East Continent?" The monarch and the others were surprised. What kind of abacus was this? Why couldn't they understand it? "Don't you understand? Stupid. Little Qin Zi means to frame Ji Tianfeng's death on the beasts and the merfolk." The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth. "Frame them?" The monarch was stunned. "Yes. What do you think the world will think if we send Ji Tianfeng's body to the East Continent? At that time, we won't even need to publicize it. Everyone will naturally think that the beasts and merfolk killed him. Let's talk about Ji Tianfeng. As a direct descendant of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan, if he died in the hands of the beasts and merfolk, how big of a sensation would it cause? Let's not talk about the humans and beasts first. Let's talk about the Purple Gold Divine Dragons. At that time, they will definitely hate the merfolk and beasts to the core. And you can also take this opportunity to openly turn against the merfolk and beasts." Qin Feiyang smiled. Long Qin was stunned by these words. When Qin Feiyang finished, she immediately looked at Qin Feiyang and said disdainfully, "You're so cunning. Do you know how to talk? This is called strategy." Qin Feiyang's face darkened. Then he looked at the monarch and continued, "And by doing this, you can also lay a good foundation for your rebellion in the future." "Foundation?" The monarch frowned. "That's right. In the future, you will fall out with the sovereign sooner or later. But now, except for you, Heavenly Lord Ji, and the great-grandfathers and grandmothers, most of the other clansmen are still on the sovereign's side. So in the future, when you officially fall out with the sovereign, these clansmen will definitely hesitate. But if we handle this matter with Ji Tianfeng well, and incite the anger of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan, then they will naturally rebel with you. In other words, Ji Tianfeng's matter is a fuse." Qin Feiyang smiled. The monarch was also stunned when he heard this. What kind of monster was this kid? It was originally a very small matter, but in the end he forcefully came up with a big conspiracy. This mind of his was a little too frightening. This idea is not bad, but you have to pay attention to your words in the future. "I'm not rebelling. I'm fighting for the fate of the Purple Gold Divine Dragons," the monarch said. Qin Feiyang was stunned and nodded. Yes, I didn't use the right words." The monarch rolled his eyes and looked at the group of elders. "I personally think that his suggestion is not bad, but I don't know what you think. As long as it's good for the Purple Gold Divine Dragons, we agree. Besides, Ji Tianfeng can be used to such a value. It can be considered as atonement for his mistakes." Boss Ji nodded. The Divine King and the human race supreme looked at each other, and were also willing to submit to Qin Feiyang's strategy. "All right. Since it's decided, leave this matter to us. You just have to cooperate with us when the time comes. When the time comes, you can even find an excuse to kill a few beast gods of the beast race, and the dragon god will have nothing to say, and can only suffer in silence." Qin Feiyang smiled. "Okay. You arrange it." The monarch nodded. Ji Tianfeng, who was paralyzed on the side, was also trembling with fear. This was Qin Feiyang? He was truly a person who made people tremble in fear upon hearing his name. No. This person was a devil. "Uncle, great-grandfather. I know I was wrong, don't kill me. Please give me another chance." Seeing Qin Feiyang walking towards him, he immediately trembled and hurriedly knelt on the ground, hugging the monarch's thigh and begging. Opportunities are not given by others, you have to fight for it yourself. Besides, to be able to use the remaining heat for the future of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon race, you can be considered to have died a worthy death. Don't worry, after you die, I will take good care of your father and son." The monarch looked at him coldly. "No." Ji Tianfeng shook his head, his face full of fear. He turned around and crawled to Qin Feiyang's feet. "Qin Feiyang, we can be considered a family. Please do me a favor and give me a chance." "Sigh. If you knew this would happen, you wouldn't have done it in the first place." Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed. He raised his arm and pressed his fingertips on Ji Tianfeng's forehead. "No? Please. I don't want to die. Ah. Accompanied by a scream, under Ji Tianfeng's extreme despair, a law of life and death emerged and directly penetrated his head, annihilating his soul on the spot. A thumb-sized bloody hole was left between his eyebrows. Chapter 41-44. Next, Qin Feiyang and the other two didn't stay any longer. They took Ji Tianfeng's body and entered the East Continent overnight. And it was near the Dragon God Mountain. If they wanted to shift the blame, they would directly shift it to the Dragon God. Only in this way could they exert the greatest effect. The Dragon God Mountain that was razed to the ground had long been rebuilt. Now it was beautiful again. However, looking at the Dragon God Mountain, Qin Feiyang and the other two were like three ghosts hidden under the night sky. There was a trace of coldness in their eyes. Do we need to lure the Dragon God away? The white-eyed wolf transmitted his voice. Yes. But it's not you, it's me. Let's meet at the Thousand Phoenix Mountain later. Qin Feiyang took out Ji Tianfeng's body and handed it to the white-eyed wolf. The Dragon God's strength was unfathomable. He couldn't let the white-eyed wolf and Longqin take the risk. Then be careful, the white-eyed wolf warned. Qin Feiyang nodded. The white-eyed wolf and Longqin looked at each other and immediately put away Ji Tianfeng's body, restrained their aura, and disappeared into the mountains below. Is there really a way to restrain the 3,000 incarnations? Qin Feiyang looked at the courtyard on the top of the mountain and muttered to himself. Then he took a step forward and roared without holding back his aura. Below, the giant peaks suddenly began to collapse, and the rumbling was deafening. And, on the top of the mountain, in the attic, the Dragon God was resting with his eyes closed. Hearing the movement outside, he immediately got up and took a step forward. He appeared outside the courtyard and looked up. When he saw Qin Feiyang in the distance, his eyes suddenly surged with killing intent. How dare you come to my Dragon God Mountain to make trouble? Boom. Accompanied by a powerful aura, the Dragon God took a step forward and landed in front of Qin Feiyang. Causing trouble? You underestimate me, Qin Feiyang. You think I'm a clown? Let me tell you, I'm here to kill you. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with murderous intent. The ultimate mysteries of all the strongest laws were instantly activated. A heaven-destroying, earth-shattering divine might shook the world. You. The Dragon God sneered. One after another, ultimate intents appeared out of nowhere. There were actually a total of 8 ultimate profundities of supreme laws. The Destruction Law, Devour Law, Nothingness Law, Space-Time Law, Time Law, Karma Law, Death Law. And the last one was the Light and Darkness Law. Powerful indeed. Qin Feiyang felt a chill in his heart. 8 ultimate profundities of supreme laws were even more powerful than the 3 monarchs. This was because the monarch and the other 2 had only mastered 7 ultimate profundities of ultimate laws. Boom. Accompanied by the eruption of the will of the heavenly Tao, the 2's law energies collided. However, Qin Feiyang's ultimate profound did not activate the will of the heavenly Tao. This was because the battlefield could not be here. Otherwise, the white-eyed wolf and Longqin would not have a chance. Because of this, Qin Feiyang was no match for him. He spat out a mouthful of purple-gold dragon blood, and his face turned slightly pale. Whoosh. Immediately, he turned around decisively, activated the moment of time, and fled into the sky. You want to leave after coming here? You're too naive. The Dragon God also activated the moment of time, and chased after him at lightning speed. But he did not notice. Just after he left, 2 black figures sneaked into the Dragon God Mountain. What aura is that? So powerful. He is Qin Feiyang. There were only 3 beast gods left in the God clan, the human clan, and the purple gold divine dragon clan. The other 7 beast gods were in the East Continent. At this moment, sensing the battle fluctuations that erupted from Qin Feiyang and the Dragon God, they were initially very surprised and suspicious. After identifying Qin Feiyang's aura, they immediately soared into the sky, opened the space-time tunnel, and went forward to encircle him. In a short while, 2 beast gods appeared in front of him. The lairs of these 2 beast gods happened to be in the direction that Qin Feiyang had fled. So, they intercepted him from this side. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows, turned in the air, and fled in another direction. The dragon god and the two beast gods looked at each other and changed directions at the same time, continuing to chase. In just a short while in front, two more beast gods ran to intercept him. A blood Kirin and an ice phoenix, fierce and powerful. Run. The dragon god laughed. You want to stop me with just these two? Qin Feiyang was disdainful and activated the 6 ultimate laws. Not activating the 3,000 clones? Then aren't you courting death? The blood Kirin and ice phoenix sneered and activated the 6 ultimate laws, and the will of the heavenly Tao erupted. Ignorance is terrible. Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed. Since they had delivered themselves to his door, why should he be polite? By directly crippling these two beast gods, it was equivalent to obtaining 12 ultimate profundities of supreme laws. The blood Kirin and 5-clawed golden dragon of the black tortoise world were also waiting to fuse their ultimate laws. Boom. Just before the collision, Qin Feiyang's lips curled up, and the will of the heavenly Tao finally erupted. With the appearance of this will of the heavenly Tao, the dragon god and the 4 beast gods' expressions changed. What a powerful heavenly might! Was this still the will of the heavenly Tao? It felt as if they were facing the real heavenly Tao. Boom. With a loud explosion, the 12 ultimate laws of the blood Kirin and ice phoenix were unable to fight back and shattered on the spot. Divine might roared. The void collapsed and the earth sank. In the mountains, the blood of countless fierce beasts splattered everywhere. These fierce beasts were all beasts, so Qin Feiyang naturally did not care. But the dragon god and the 4 beast gods were heartbroken. You should worry about yourselves first. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly. The 6 ultimate laws continued to attack the blood Kirin and ice phoenix with a monstrous power. Dodge! The dragon god shouted. This will of the heavenly Tao had far exceeded the will of the heavenly Tao that they had. Even the beast gods could only be killed in an instant. The blood Kirin and ice phoenix quivered and immediately turned to escape in 2 directions, their backs drenched in cold sweat. How could there be such a terrifying will of the heavenly Tao? They had never seen it before. Boom. Although they escaped quickly, they were still affected by the aftershock of the 6 ultimate laws. Their mountain-like bodies were torn apart on the spot, and blood splattered everywhere. This scene made the other 2 beast gods beside the dragon god shudder with fear and trepidation. Just the remaining force alone was enough to shatter the flesh of the beast gods into pieces? If they were killed head-on, wouldn't they die on the spot? The dragon god's face darkened slightly. Qin Feiyang's strength had far exceeded his imagination. At the same time, the blood Kirin and ice phoenix thought they had escaped. But suddenly, they felt another strong sense of danger coming from behind them. When they turned their heads to look, they were instantly scared out of their wits. They saw that in the void behind them, there was actually a person who looked exactly like Qin Feiyang, and he was charging towards them. 3,000 clones. There was no need to think to know that it was 3,000 clones. Lord Dragon God, save us. Their bodies were torn apart. Whether it was speed or strength, they could no longer exert their peak state. They frantically ran for their lives while calling for help. No one can save you. The 2 clones sneered. At the same time, Qin Feiyang stopped in the void and turned to face the dragon god and the other 2 beast gods. This was to prevent them from rescuing the blood Kirin and ice phoenix. You 2 go rescue them. The dragon god said to the 2 beast gods gloomily. He stared at Qin Feiyang and said, "You are courting death." Boom. A mysterious aura suddenly erupted. Qin Feiyang was about to intercept the 2 beast gods, but as this aura erupted, he suddenly felt an unprecedented sense of danger. Whoosh. He didn't dare to hesitate and activated all 3,000 clones. Seeing this, the 2 beast gods who were about to rescue the blood Kirin and ice phoenix immediately retreated. Actually, even if they succeeded in bypassing Qin Feiyang and ran to rescue them, it was already too late, because the 2 clones had already caught up with the blood Kirin and ice phoenix. Ah! Following a cry of agony, the flesh of the 2 beast gods shattered into pieces. Their souls were fatally injured. The 2 clones attacked and instantly sealed their souls to prevent them from self-destructing. You really don't know what death is. This scene made the dragon god completely furious. You 2 stop him. Qin Feiyang didn't hesitate and left this sentence to the 2,998 clones behind him. Then he turned around and shot through the sky like lightning to join the other 2 clones. Die here for this sovereign! The dragon god roared angrily. Wisps of mysterious power surged out and instantly turned into a 3-foot-long sword. It was colorful and dazzling like a colorful diamond. This is... Feeling this aura, Qin Feiyang turned his head to look, and his expression changed. This was actually the power of origin. How was this possible? The dragon god actually controlled the power of origin? The power of origin was something that only the ruler of the divine kingdom could control. Could it be? This was given to him by the ruler of the divine kingdom? This was the dragon god's strongest technique? It was indeed terrifying. Because he had already experienced the power of origin of the divine kingdom. When he entered the divine kingdom, there was nothing that could stop it. He finally understood why the dragon god and Neptune both had the means to restrain the 3,000 clones. The reason was the power of origin. With the power of origin of the divine kingdom, how could the 3,000 clones be a match for the dragon god and Neptune? Instead of calling it restraint, it was better to call it crushing. The 3,000 clones also realized the seriousness of the problem. The law of life and death, and the ultimate profoundness of the 6 supreme laws were activated without reservation. The will of the heavenly way also erupted. Retreat. The other 2 beast gods were horrified when they saw this scene. They were different from the dragon god. The dragon god controlled the power of origin of the divine kingdom, but they did not. Facing the law of life and death, the ultimate profoundness of the 6 supreme laws, and such a terrifying will of the heavenly way, they did not even have the courage to fight. However, the dragon god did not retreat at all, and the murderous intent in his eyes grew stronger. With a slash of the long sword in his hand, thousands of sharp lights swept across the sky like a torrent, and 3,000 clones appeared. Rumble. In just an instant, the 3,000 clones collided with the sword aura. Qin Feiyang had also joined the 2 clones. When he turned his head to look, his pupils immediately shrank. Even the current will of the heavenly way could not compete with the power of origin of the divine kingdom. Whether it was the ultimate profoundness of the 6 supreme laws or the law of life and death, they were all shattered like rotten wood. How could he dare to continue fighting? He immediately opened a space-time tunnel and entered it without looking back. At the same time, the sword aura surged, and the 2,988 clones all dissipated in an instant. Chapter 41-45. Immediately after, the sword chi surged toward the space-time tunnel in an overwhelming manner. Thousand Phoenix Mountain. Qin Feiyang ran out. Before he could catch his breath, he sensed a fatal danger behind him. At this moment, the white-eyed wolf and Long Qin were already waiting at the top of the mountain. When they saw Qin Feiyang appear, they immediately went to greet him happily. But before they got close, they also felt a fatal threat. Without hesitation, the 3 of them immediately rose into the air. At the same time, a terrifying sword chi roared out. Although Qin Feiyang and the other 2 escaped in time, they were still affected by a wisp of sword chi. Their bodies were torn apart on the spot, and their blood dyed the sky red. The 3 of them frantically ran for their lives, their hearts filled with horror. Especially the white-eyed wolf and Long Qin, their hearts were in turmoil. What the hell was that? How could it be so terrifying? When they escaped to a safe distance and looked back, they were dumbfounded. The void and earth in this area had been reduced to nothing. The white-eyed wolf activated the law of life. While healing Long Qin and himself, he flew to Qin Feiyang's side and asked, "What's going on?" The dragon god's means are beyond our imagination. It's as difficult as ascending to heaven to deal with him. Qin Feiyang sighed deeply. The white-eyed wolf and Long Qin looked at each other, and the shock in their eyes grew stronger. "Let's get out of here first." Qin Feiyang opened a space-time tunnel. The next moment, the 3 of them appeared in the West Continent. Qin Feiyang immediately took the 2 of them into the Black Tortoise realm. He first sealed the remnant souls of the Blood Kirin and Ice Phoenix in the ancient castle. Then the 3 of them went to the tea garden, made a pot of tea, and drank a few sips. After calming down, Qin Feiyang took out the voice transmission stone. Buzz. The Lord's shadow appeared. "Why are you in such a sorry state?" Looking at the bloodied Qin Feiyang, the Lord was shocked. The mission has been completed. At the same time, the dragon god's trump card has been exposed. Qin Feiyang said. What trump card? The monarch was bewildered. Obviously, the reason Qin Feiyang was in such a sorry state was definitely because of the dragon god's trump card. The power of origin of the divine kingdom. Qin Feiyang enunciated every word clearly. What? The monarch looked at Qin Feiyang in shock. White-eyed Wolf and Long Qin were so shocked that their faces turned pale. They were no stranger to the power of the origin of the divine kingdom. Back then, when they had broken into the divine kingdom, if it hadn't been for the mysterious youth, they would have been killed by the power of the origin of the divine kingdom. But who would have thought that the dragon god also controlled the origin power? The monarch came back to his senses and asked, "Isn't this origin energy something that only sovereigns can control?" Indeed. However, sovereigns can also bestow a few strands of the power of origin to their subordinates. Qin Feiyang said. Even the 3,000 incarnations can't stop it? The monarch asked. Not only the 3,000 incarnations, all the ultimate mysteries and heavenly will that I have mastered can't stop the power of origin controlled by the dragon god. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Recalling the scene he had seen before, he couldn't help but shudder. If that's the case, doesn't it mean that we have no chance of winning? The monarch frowned. That's the case for now. Qin Feiyang nodded. Apart from the power of origin of the Black Tortoise realm, only the power of faith of the human race could contend with the power of origin. But now, whether it was the power of origin of the Black Tortoise realm, or the power of faith of the human race, they had not reached this level. Then what should we do? The monarch was worried. You don't have to worry. As long as our alliance is not exposed, the dragon god and Neptune will not attack you. Qin Feiyang comforted. No matter how fast the Black Tortoise realm grew, it still needed a process. The same was true for the power of faith of the human race. To be honest, this matter was really difficult to deal with. So for now, they could only avoid the sharp edge. In the future, the monarch, the divine king, and the human race would have to be more careful when doing things. About Ji Tianfeng, do I still have to look for the dragon god to settle the score? The monarch asked. Of course. Although he has the power of origin, he still has some concerns about the three races. Moreover, you have to continue to pretend that you don't know that he has the power of origin. Otherwise, he will suspect our relationship. After all, only we know that he has the power of origin. Qin Feiyang said. All right. Anyway, just do as usual. The monarch smiled. Yes, we can't have the slightest fear. When it's time to make a move, make a move. The power of origin is his trump card, and the only way to restrain the 3,000 incarnations. He won't show it in front of you until the last moment. Qin Feiyang nodded. Makes sense. The monarch thought for a moment and said, Then you have to make arrangements as soon as possible to spread the news of Ji Tianfeng's death in the East Continent. The bigger the commotion, the better. I will make the arrangements later. Although I have suffered a loss this time, I have also gained something. I have captured the Blood Kirin and the Ice Phoenix. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. Captured them? It doesn't seem to be meaningful because their divine souls are in the East Continent. The monarch frowned. I know this. But for me, they are of great use. Qin Feiyang smiled. What great use? The monarch was curious. I won't reveal it for now. When the time is right, I will give you a surprise. Qin Feiyang smiled mysteriously. You brat, you are still keeping me in suspense. The monarch laughed. Qin Feiyang laughed dryly. The monarch asked, What should we do with Old Wu and the spies of the human race and the Protoss? They must be eliminated, but we can't rush it. Otherwise, the dragon god and Neptune will become suspicious. Anyway, now that we know they are spies, we just have to be careful in the future. It won't affect the overall situation. And in the future, they may be of great help to us. For example, we can give them false information. Qin Feiyang bared his teeth. The monarch was stunned. He shook his head and smiled. Long Qin was right. You are a treacherous little fox. Look. Even the monarch said so. What else do you have to refute? Long Qin looked at Qin Feiyang with disdain. Qin Feiyang looked at the monarch helplessly and said, Then that's it for now. You guys act according to the circumstances, and tell the Divine King and the supremacy of the human race. Okay. The monarch nodded. After the conversation, Qin Feiyang put away the transmission stone and turned to look at the white-eyed wolf. Seeing this, the white-eyed wolf immediately prepared to run away. Why are you running away? Qin Feiyang grabbed him and said with a dark face. Don't I know you? You must be planning to let me spread the news. The white-eyed wolf snorted. Spreading the news is just a matter of moving one's mouth. Qin Feiyang was speechless. It was as if he was going to risk his life. Then he looked at Long Qin and said, Little Qin, you go with him. If he doesn't listen, you can beat him up. At first, Long Qin was very reluctant like the white-eyed wolf, but when she heard the latter part, she immediately perked up and asked, Are you sure I can beat him up? Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Long Qin immediately looked at the white-eyed wolf with evil intentions. Damn you! What kind of brother are you? I'm going to cut ties with you. Immediately right now. The white-eyed wolf yelled at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang turned a deaf ear and waved his hand, sending the two out of the Black Tortoise realm. Then he pondered for a moment, stepped out and landed in the cultivation room of the ancient castle. Sky Peng, the Bloodwing Sea God, the Blood Kirin, and the Ice Phoenix were all sealed in this cultivation room. Seeing Qin Feiyang come in, the three beast gods and the Bloodwing Sea God immediately stared at Qin Feiyang with resentment. Don't look at me like that. You only have yourselves to blame for overestimating yourselves. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Then what do you mean? Are you going to keep suppressing us like this? The Bloodwing Sea God said angrily. Sky Peng and the Bloodwing Sea God's ultimate enlightenment hadn't been stripped yet, because Long Chen had already said not to disturb him for the time being. However, Qin Feiyang was a little worried that a long delay might lead to trouble, so he hesitated at this moment. Should he go and find Long Chen? Forget it, let's wait for him to come out. There shouldn't be any changes if we're imprisoned here. Qin Feiyang mumbled, and looked up at the three beast gods and the Bloodwing Sea God. He smiled and said, If you want, I'll be happy to imprison you here forever. Who the hell would be willing? Sky Peng and the Bloodwing Sea God couldn't help but curse in their hearts. They didn't realize that Qin Feiyang was thinking about their ultimate enlightenment. Outside. At dawn, a piece of news that shocked the three continents spread like wildfire. The monarch's nephew, Ji Tianfeng, died in the East Continent. And he died on the Dragon God Mountain. Needless to say, if he died on the Dragon God Mountain, it must have something to do with the Dragon God. Is this true? Why do I feel that it's a bit ridiculous? No matter how arrogant the beast race is, they wouldn't dare to attack a direct descendant of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan. I don't think it's groundless. Let's wait a little longer. If this is true, the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan will make a move soon. Everyone was discussing. At the same time, East Continent. The Dragon God returned to the Dragon God Mountain and sat in the pavilion with a gloomy face. First it was Sky Peng, and now it was the Blood Kirin and the Ice Phoenix. Were they trying to defeat the beast gods of the beast race one by one? Swoosh! Suddenly, a figure descended in the courtyard. It was Neptune. At this moment, Neptune's face was extremely ugly. He hurried into the pavilion and glared at the Dragon God. What have you done? What? The Dragon God looked up at Neptune in confusion. Why are you asking me about the stupid things you did? Neptune thought he was playing dumb, and became even more annoyed. Stupid things? Be more polite when you speak to me. What is it? Can you make it clear first? The Dragon God was already very angry. Now that Neptune came, he scolded him without any explanation. Wasn't that adding fuel to the fire? You really don't know? Neptune frowned. Know what? The Dragon God was also more and more puzzled, and an uneasy premonition appeared in his heart. It seems that you really don't know. I just received news that the West Continent, South Continent, and North Continent are crazily spreading the news. You killed the monarch's nephew, Ji Tianfeng. Neptune said in a deep voice. Killed Ji Tianfeng? Who said that? Why would I kill such a trash? Besides, he is a spy we planted in the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan. Why would I kill him? The Dragon God was speechless. But rumors are like that. Neptune frowned. What was going on? Chapter 41-46. Swish. Suddenly, a space-time passage appeared. A golden tiger hurriedly ran out. Didn't I ask you to keep an eye on the purple gold divine dragon clan? Why did you run back in such a hurry? The dragon god looked at Golden Tiger suspiciously. My lord, don't tell me you still don't know what happened outside? Golden Tiger was burning with anxiety. The dragon god froze for a moment and frowned. Are you talking about the rumors about me killing Ji Tianfeng? Yes. Golden Tiger nodded. What a bunch of nonsense. Someone is spreading rumors and causing trouble. The dragon god was furious. But now we really can't find Ji Tianfeng in the purple gold divine dragon clan. Moreover, when the king heard the news, he was furious. Not only did he summon the powerhouses of the clan, but he also asked Ji Tianjun to personally invite the divine king and the supreme of the human race to come and seek justice from you. Golden Tiger said in a deep voice. What? The dragon god suddenly stood up and roared. Bastard, who is behind this? Are you sure you didn't do it? Neptune looked at the dragon god and asked again. If I say I didn't do it, then I didn't do it. The dragon god glared at him. Neptune frowned. He naturally knew the dragon god's character. If he really did it, there was nothing he wouldn't dare to admit. In that case, someone must be plotting against the dragon god behind this matter. But who was it? Plotting against the dragon god required a lot of courage. Could it be Qin Feiyang and his group? Golden Tiger was surprised. Qin Feiyang. The dragon god's eyes were cold as he nodded and said, Yes, it must be these people. They want to sow discord between us and the three major clans and cause internal strife. If it's really them, then this move is really vicious. Neptune whispered. Ji Tianfeng was the king's nephew. He was the true direct descendant of the purple gold divine dragon clan. The most important thing was that everyone knew about it now. In such a situation, would the monarch let it go? Definitely not. If the monarch did not come to seek justice from them, the world would criticize him behind his back, saying that he did not even dare to stand up for him when his own nephew was killed. He could already foresee that when the monarch brought his people to the East Continent, it would cause a terrible storm. Sir, why don't you go and hide for a while? The Golden Tiger was rather worried. What did you say? You want me to hide? I didn't do it. Why should I hide from them? The dragon god roared. But, the Golden Tiger hesitated. The dragon god was obviously in a fit of anger, so he didn't dare to say anything more. Hiding is indeed not a solution. However, you don't have to worry too much, because this kind of thing requires evidence first. Dragon God Mountain doesn't have Ji Tianfeng's corpse. Even if the monarch brings people here, he can't really do anything to us. Neptune said, but in his heart he felt uneasy. He seemed to have overlooked something. That's right. If you say that I killed Ji Tianfeng, then show me the evidence. The dragon god sneered. Boom. But before he finished speaking, a terrifying aura descended from the sky. The dragon god and the other two looked up and their faces sank. The people who came were from the three major races. The monarch, the divine king, and the supremacy of the human race were the leaders. Next were Heavenly Lord Ji and the supremacies of the three major races. This lineup was more than just a little terrifying. Each of them had mastered the ultimate meaning. The 10 supremacies of the god race and the 3rd supremacies of the human race. These two spies were also there. However, except for the monarch, the divine king, the supremacy of the human race, and Heavenly Lord Ji, all the supremacies here did not know about this meticulously planned plot by Qin Feiyang. Similarly, the monarch and the other two also listened to Qin Feiyang's suggestion, and did not expose the identities of the 10 supremacies and the 3rd supremacies as spies. Therefore, right now, the 10 supremacies and the 3rd supremacies were completely unaware that their identities as spies had been exposed. Dragon God, Neptune, why did you do this? As soon as the monarch appeared, he directly questioned them. What did you say? The dragon god and Neptune frowned. Still playing dumb? Hurry up and hand over Ji Tianfeng to us. Heavenly Lord Ji spoke, his entire body surging with killing intent. You're just a junior, don't be presumptuous. The golden tiger raised his eyebrows and said angrily, "You're not convinced? With trash like you, even 100 of you won't be enough for me to kill." Heavenly Lord Ji looked at the golden tiger with unparalleled dominance, his eyes full of contempt. "You," the golden tiger was so angry that he trembled. This was too arrogant. The dragon god stopped the golden tiger, looked at Heavenly Lord Ji, and said in a deep voice, "Ji Tianfeng's matter has nothing to do with us. Moreover, with my identity and status, I disdain to kill such a small character." "Then who knows? I only believe that there's no such thing as a groundless rumor. Moreover, we really can't find Ji Tianfeng now. Moreover, the contract bridge we established with him has collapsed, which means that he has indeed met with misfortune." The monarch said in a deep voice. "The contract bridge collapsed?" The dragon god and Neptune looked at each other. In that case, Ji Tianfeng had really met with misfortune. Because only when he met with misfortune would the contract bridge established by the divine voice stone dissipate. "I really didn't expect you guys to be so ruthless. There's a good saying that you have to look at the owner before beating a dog. Ji Tianfeng is the monarch's nephew. Even if he has offended you, for the sake of the monarch, for the sake of the Buddha, you shouldn't kill him directly." The divine king sighed. "Divine king, don't slander us." The dragon god was furious. The divine king sneered and said, "Then tell me, what's with the rumors outside? Daring to do it but not daring to admit it. Is this the style of the dragon god? What a joke. If it was really done by me, why wouldn't I dare to admit it? The key is, Ji Tianfeng's death indeed has nothing to do with me. Why should I bear with something that didn't happen?" The dragon god roared. "Monarch, divine king Jizun, before you guys came, I also asked the dragon god and he indeed didn't do it. According to our speculation, this should be deliberately framed by someone. And I think that the person behind this is most likely Qin Feiyang's group. In other words, Ji Tianfeng was killed by them, and now they are deliberately framing the dragon god to sow discord between our several races." Neptune explained calmly. "Words have no proof." Heavenly Lord Ji said word by word. Neptune shook his head and said, "We really don't have any evidence now, but please believe me, this matter really has nothing to do with the dragon god. I guarantee it in my own name." "How much is your name worth? Besides, who doesn't know that the sea race and the beast race have a good relationship?" "Heavenly Lord, search the mountain. If he's alive, I want to see him. If he's dead, I want to see his corpse." The monarch shouted. "Yes." Heavenly Lord Ji nodded, and his divine sense rolled out. "Search the mountain?" The golden tiger raised his eyebrows and said angrily, "What right do you have to search the mountain? Where do you think this is? How can you be so presumptuous?" "What? Guilty conscience?" Heavenly Lord Ji sneered. "Let them search. I have a clear conscience. I'm not afraid of them searching." The dragon god looked at the golden tiger and shouted. The golden tiger roared indignantly, "But this kind of behavior is disrespectful to you. So we have to make it clear in advance." The dragon god looked at the monarch and said in a deep voice, "If you can't find Ji Tianfeng's body in the end, then kneel down in front of everyone and apologize to me." "You think you're worthy of making father kneel down and apologize? Let's talk about it later. With your means, you can completely destroy the corpse and destroy the evidence." Heavenly Lord Ji sneered. "Bastard! How many times do I have to say that this has nothing to do with me? You want to search, right? Go ahead." If it weren't for his identity, the dragon god would probably have cursed. Heavenly Lord Ji's eyes flashed coldly, and his divine sense rolled out, instantly enveloping the entire dragon god mountain. Time passed bit by bit. Suddenly, Heavenly Lord Ji clenched his hands and immediately took a step forward, landing above a river in the mountains below. Seeing this, the monarch and the others immediately followed. The dragon god and the other two looked at each other, and followed with a face full of surprise. Could it be that they really found something? The river. It was several meters wide. The river water was calm and clear. Heavenly Lord Ji's divine sense sank to the bottom of the river. "Bastard, you really did it." All of a sudden, a monstrous anger erupted as Heavenly Lord Ji glared at the dragon god and roared. "What?" The dragon god's eyes trembled, and he hurriedly released his divine sense and rushed to the bottom of the river. He was stunned. The others also did the same. When their divine sense sank to the bottom of the river, they saw a corpse lying quietly at the bottom of the river. If it wasn't Heavenly Lord Ji, who else could it be? Impossible. The dragon god shook his head. The monarch waved his hand, and Heavenly Lord Ji's corpse rose out of the water and floated in the void. Looking at Heavenly Lord Ji's miserable death, the 10 supremacies of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan were enraged. They stared at the dragon god and shouted, "What else do you have to say?" Neptune and Golden Tiger also looked at the dragon god. "Believe me, this really has nothing to do with me. Like what Heavenly Lord Ji said before, if it really was me, I could have destroyed the corpse and erased the evidence. Why would I leave his body here? Isn't this giving them something to use against me? Am I that stupid?" The dragon god hurriedly looked at Neptune and said. Neptune frowned. It seemed to make sense. In such a situation, the element of framing was indeed more likely. However, he believed in the dragon god. But would the monarch and the others believe him? After all, seeing was believing, and the corpse was right in front of them. "Dragon god, you've gone too far." The monarch clenched his fists and a monstrous energy erupted. The power of laws surged out, and a scene of heaven and earth cracking suddenly appeared. "Monarch, calm down," Neptune shouted. "Calm down? I think this matter also has something to do with you." The monarch stared at Neptune like a furious lion. All the ultimate mysteries appeared and the will of heaven roared in all directions. In the blink of an eye, the dragon god mountain was razed to the ground by the monarch's anger. Neptune's heart sank. He didn't expect that even he would be implicated. "You killed my clansmen. An eye for an eye." Heavenly Lord Ji directly activated 3,000 incarnations, and his murderous aura surged into the sky. "Heavenly Lord Ji, don't be presumptuous." At this time, accompanied by angry roars, the other 17 divine beasts arrived, all of them furious. Chapter 41-47. What? You want to bully me with numbers? Killing intent flashed in the God King's eyes. With a wave of his hand, the 10 sovereigns behind him immediately stood in front of the 17 beast gods. The human lord also looked at the 10 lords of the human race. The 10 lords understood and also stood in front of the 17 beast gods. "Divine King, Lord Supreme, what do you want?" One of the beast gods said angrily. The Divine King said, "This sentence, it should be this Empyrean asking you all. What are your intentions in killing Ji Tianfeng? We know a thing or two about this. Someone must have framed you. As the Divine King of the God race and Lord Supreme of the human race, can't you see that?" The beast gods said angrily. "We only believe what we see with our own eyes. Look at you. You're getting more and more arrogant. All these years, the beast kings and beast emperors of the East continent have enslaved the members of the 3 races and used them as tools to pass the time. We followed the principle of peaceful coexistence and pretended not to see it. But now, you've killed a direct descendant of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon race. Do you really think we're easy to bully?" The Divine King's face was dark. "Don't make it sound so nice. Even if this has something to do with me, what does it have to do with the God race and the human race? Do you have nothing better to do than to meddle in other people's business?" The dragon god stared at the Divine King and Lord Supreme of the human race. "You finally admit it," Heavenly Lord Ji said. "When did I admit it? I was just making a metaphor. How can you be the patriarch if your understanding is so bad?" The dragon god shouted. "Whether you admit it or not, don't think about it today. As for the Divine King and Lord Supreme, they're on the side of justice. Besides, you killed a direct descendant of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon race today, and tomorrow, you might kill a direct descendant of the God race or kill an elite of the human race. Then, Heavenly Lord Ji's 3,000 clones all activated their ultimate intents. Following the eruption of the will of the Heavenly Tao, 18,000 ultimate intents instantly turned into a torrent that charged toward the Dragon God. "You're courting death." Killing intent surged in the Dragon God's eyes. "The monarch hasn't even made a move yet, and you, a junior, dare to be so arrogant?" Clang! The enraged Dragon God directly activated his origin force, and Neptune couldn't even stop him in time. Not only had the dragon god entered a state of rage, but only the power of the origin could rival the 3,000 incarnations. Therefore, he could only activate his origin energy. This is the monarch, heavenly monarch, and heavenly monarch Ji's pupils contracted. Although they had already learned from Qin Feiyang that the dragon god controlled the origin power, they still had to pretend that they had just found out. Clang! The origin energy turned into a 1-meter-long sword that was indestructible. The 18,000 ultimate mysteries shattered on the spot. Heavenly Lord Ji spat out a mouthful of blood as his face turned pale. "I'll send you to hell right now." The dragon god let out a sinister smile as he slashed at Heavenly Lord Ji with his sword. "How dare you hurt my grandson? Even if you're the dragon god, I won't let you off." Suddenly, accompanied by a violent roar, 15 old men descended from the sky. What? Neptune's expression changed abruptly. It actually alarmed these 15 old antiques. Boom. The 15 old men took a step forward and landed in front of Heavenly Lord Ji as they activated their 3,000 incarnations. Ultimate intents appeared one after another. These old men had all mastered 7 ultimate intents of the strongest laws. One of them had 21,000 ultimate intents. 15 of them had more than 300,000 ultimate intents of the strongest laws. What kind of scene was this? Even Neptune and the dragon god couldn't help but tremble. As the rulers of the beast race and the sea race, they were naturally very clear about the situation of the purple gold divine dragon race. The most terrifying part of the purple gold divine dragon race wasn't the monarch or heavenly Lord Ji, but these 15 old men who lived in seclusion deep in the mountains. Once these 15 old men made a move, even they would be scared out of their wits. "Old senior, this is a misunderstanding. Please calm down." Dragon god, quickly stop. Neptune shouted repeatedly. More than 300,000 ultimate intents of the strongest laws. To be honest, even the power of origin that the dragon god had mastered might not be able to crush them. Because the power of origin that the dragon god had mastered was only bestowed by the sovereign. No matter how strong it was, it had a limit. Moreover, if this power of origin was shattered by the 15 old men, then the dragon god would lose this trump card of the power of origin. Because the sovereign wasn't in the divine kingdom now, he could no longer bestow the dragon god the power of origin. If the dragon god lost the power of origin, it would be equivalent to losing the suppression of the 3 major races. Hearing Neptune's shout, the dragon god frowned slightly, and the longsword formed by the power of origin returned to him. "Not bad. He even bestowed the power of origin to you. It seems that the sovereign really treats you as his trusted aide. Since the dragon god has the power of origin, then Neptune, you must also have the power of origin." Master Jijio looked at the two and sneered. "This is a small matter. Seniors, please do not believe in the slanderous words. Ji Tianfeng's death really has nothing to do with us. How about this, give us some time. We will definitely find evidence, and give the purple gold divine dragon clan a satisfactory explanation." Neptune said. "But Ji Tianfeng's corpse is on Dragon God Mountain. This is an ironclad fact." Master Ji said in a deep voice. "Yes, this can't be denied, but Ji Tianfeng's death is indeed very strange." Neptune explained. Suddenly, the dragon god's gaze trembled, and he shouted, "This sovereign understands." "What?" Neptune looked at him in surprise. "Last night, Qin Feiyang came to Dragon God Mountain. I thought he was here for revenge, but now that I think about it, he was actually luring the tiger away from the mountain." The dragon god said angrily. "Luring the tiger away from the mountain?" Neptune was stunned. "That's right. He tricked me out of Dragon God Mountain, and then had his companions put Ji Tianfeng's corpse in my Dragon God Mountain to frame me." The dragon god said. "That's right. When the rumor appeared in the West Continent, North Continent, and South Continent, it seemed to be not long after he came to Dragon God Mountain. That must be it. He was the one who killed Ji Tianfeng, and then framed us for it. He instigated the relationship between our 5 great races, made us have internal strife, and then came out to reap the benefits." Neptune nodded. Why did he always feel like he had overlooked something before? So this was it. "No matter what you say, you have to pay the price today." Heavenly Lord Ji's eyes turned cold, and he activated his 3,000 clones again. He suddenly turned around and attacked the 17 beast gods. No! Neptune shouted. But Heavenly Lord Ji turned a deaf ear. The 3,000 clones pounced on the beast gods. The beast gods certainly wouldn't sit still and wait for death. However, they couldn't resist at all in the face of the 3,000 clones. Arg! Accompanied by screams, the bodies of the 17 beast gods shattered on the spot in less than 3 breaths. Even their divine souls were completely erased. Of course, they wouldn't die, because they had left their divine souls in advance. However, this scene was truly shocking. It also proved the power of the 3,000 clones. They were all overlords who had mastered the will of heaven, but the 17 beast gods were like a group of children in front of Heavenly Lord Ji. No wonder the Lord gave the dragon god and Neptune the power of origin before he left. Without the power of origin, they wouldn't have the ability to suppress the purple gold divine dragons at all. Heavenly Lord Ji, at the same time, the dragon god looked at this scene with murderous intent in his eyes. What do you want? If the beast race really wants to go to war, the purple gold divine dragons won't be soft shrimps. At most, we'll fight to the death. Ninth Master Ji stared at the dragon god, a cold light flashing in his eyes. You! The dragon god was so angry that he was about to vomit blood. Just because of Heavenly Lord Ji, he killed 17 beast gods of the beast race in front of him. This was simply too much. Although the 17 beast gods didn't really die, this kind of behavior was a naked humiliation to him. Enough! They won't die anyway, so let's just endure this for now. The Sea King transmitted his voice to the group of elders and said, 17 beast gods have been annihilated. You should be appeased by now. Just give us some time. We promise to investigate this matter thoroughly and give you an explanation. Okay. We'll give you time to investigate. 3 months. If you don't give us an explanation after 3 months, don't blame us for being ruthless. Next time, these beast gods will truly be destroyed in body and soul. Let's go. Ninth Master Ji left these words, opened the space-time passage, and led the group of people away. Only the dragon god, Neptune, and the golden tiger were left here. This is too much, too much. These old farts don't put the sea race and the beast race in their eyes at all. The golden tiger roared. There's nothing we can do about it. These people, although now living in seclusion deep in the mountains and don't care about the world, when they were young, which one of them wasn't in existence that made people tremble in fear? Once they are angered, even if we can kill them, the beast race and the sea race will pay a heavy price. Neptune sighed deeply. Then what should we do now? Qin Feiyang and these people are more cunning than foxes. It's probably harder than ascending to the sky to find out the truth of this matter. And with such a vicious plan, they definitely won't give us a chance to find out the truth. The golden tiger was worried. If they couldn't find out the truth, how could they give the purple gold divine dragon race an explanation? Finding out the truth is indeed as difficult as ascending to the sky. Now, to solve this matter, I'm afraid we can only ask the people of the Central Dynasty to come forward. Neptune sighed. The golden tiger's pupils shrank. There was also a trace of deep fear in the dragon god's eyes. All right. Try your best to investigate. It's best if you can find out the truth. I'll go to the Central Dynasty now. As long as they are willing to come forward, those old farts of the purple gold divine dragon race won't dare to say anything. After the Sea King finished speaking, he looked at the dragon god and exhorted, You must not act rashly while I'm away. Otherwise, even with your power of origin, you may not be able to withstand the combined might of the 3 major races. I know. The dragon god waved his hand impatiently. Neptune sighed helplessly, opened a space-time passage, and left. Chapter 41-48. Find him. Order all the beasts in Scandinavia to find Qin Feiyang, and those bastards for this sovereign. This sovereign will let them know the price of provoking this sovereign. The more the dragon god thought about it, the angrier he got. If it was really him who did it, it would make sense. But what did this have to do with him? Why did he have to suffer such grievances? If he didn't vent his anger, he would go crazy sooner or later. Yes. The golden tiger nodded respectfully, and turned to leave with a belly full of anger. It seems that the people from the central dynasty will appear soon. At the same time, in the void not far away, the Black Tortoise realm was hidden in the dark. Qin Feiyang, the white-eyed wolf, and Long Qin stood in the Black Tortoise realm and witnessed the whole process. Wait. Not the whole process. In fact, they followed Boss Ji and the others here. If they came here from the beginning, no matter how they hid, they would definitely be discovered by everyone's divine sense. I heard that Neptune and the Dragon God are in contact with the people from the Central Dynasty. I didn't believe it, but I didn't expect it to be true. I'm really looking forward to it. What kind of people are in the Central Dynasty? The white-eyed wolf had a playful look on his face. We can ignore the Central Dynasty for now, because right now, there is an opportunity in front of us. Qin Feiyang chuckled. What opportunity? The white-eyed wolf and Long Qin were suspicious. Neptune went to the Central Dynasty, and from what he said to the Dragon God, he should be leaving for a long time. Isn't this a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us? The corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth lifted slightly. The two looked at each other and suddenly understood. If Neptune left, the Oceanic tribe would be like a group of dragons without a leader. And the only person who could threaten them was Neptune, who had the power of origin. Without Neptune, wouldn't they be able to do whatever they wanted? Qin Feiyang smiled and said, since the opportunity has come knocking on our door, we shouldn't be polite. Let's take care of the Oceanic race in one fell swoop. Interesting. The white-eyed wolf bared its fangs. That's exciting. Long Qin also giggled. If he could really wipe out the entire sea race, not to mention the 6,000 shadow guards, perhaps even all the ferocious beasts around Qin Feiyang would be able to grasp the will of the heavenly Tao. Qin Feiyang seemed to have a lot of people and beasts around him, but compared to the entire Sea Clan, it was like comparing an elephant to an ant. Putting aside the others, just the 6,000 shadow guards alone would require 36,000 ultimate profound meanings to grasp the will of the heavenly Tao. In other words, as long as each of the 36,000 members of the Sea Tribe grasped an ultimate profound, it would be enough for the 6,000 secret guards to reach the heavens in one step. 36,000 people, each grasping an ultimate profound. In the Sky Cloud realm, this was almost a dream. But in the Sea Clan, the number of people who grasped the ultimate profound of the ultimate law far exceeded this number. Moreover, many of the Sea Clan had grasped several ultimate profound of the ultimate law. So, once this plan succeeded, the overall strength of the Black Tortoise realm would definitely soar countless times in an instant. Buzz. Suddenly, the Divine Sound Transmission Stone rang. Qin Feiyang took out the Divine Sound Transmission Stone, and a shadow appeared. It was the king. You're still in the East Continent? The king asked with a smile. I'm keeping an eye on the Dragon God. Qin Feiyang smiled. Then after we left, did the Dragon God and Neptune do anything? The king asked. Yes. Neptune is going to the Central Dynasty to ask the people there to come forward and solve this matter. Qin Feiyang nodded. I knew they would do this. But we sovereigns are indeed too biased. Every time it's the three major clans who risk their lives at the front, but in the end, they give the Beast Clan and the Sea Clan the origin energy. The king sighed. Every time he thought of the unfair treatment of the sovereigns, he felt more and more disappointed and sad. The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth and said, don't be sad. When the Black Tortoise realm grows in the future, I'll ask little Qinzi to give you a piece of the origin energy. You can play with it however you want. The king's mouth twitched. Do you think the origin energy is a toy? He was speechless. Let's get down to business. The Central Dynasty can't be underestimated. The king's face suddenly became serious, and he said in a deep voice, about 1,000 years ago, two amazing talents appeared out of nowhere in the Divine Kingdom. These two people relied on their abilities to suppress the geniuses of the various clans. In the end, they were valued by the Central Dynasty and were personally sent to pick them up. What? The Central Dynasty personally came to pick them up? The three of them were stunned. How monstrous were they? Their talent and potential are not inferior to yours. However, their origins are still a mystery. The king frowned. What do you mean? The white-eyed wolf was stunned. No one knows where they came from, and no one knows their identity. No one even knows what they look like. The king said. That's impossible. Didn't they appear in the divine kingdom? How can no one know what they look like? The white-eyed wolf was stunned. Yes. There are quite a lot of people who have seen them. I've seen them with my own eyes. However, they've always been wearing masks. Regardless of when, they've never taken them off. The divine king shook his head. Why are they so mysterious? The three of them looked at each other. The Longqin frowned and said, They can't be people from the Central Dynasty, right? We thought so too, but if they're really people from the Central Dynasty, why would the Central Dynasty send people to pick them up? The divine king was suspicious. That can be explained. Maybe they sneaked out from the Central Dynasty, and then their elders found out and sent people to capture them. The Longqin said. That's also possible. In fact, back in the Sky Cloud realm, the geniuses of the divine kingdom were repeatedly defeated by you. The divine king and I, the supreme of the human race, wanted to find the Central Dynasty and asked the two geniuses to help. However, my good-for-nothing grandson insisted on holding a friendly competition to lure out the geniuses with the strongest fighting souls from the Sky Cloud realm. But in the end he went for wool and came home shorn. The king smiled bitterly. Qin Feiyong shook his head, smiled and said, Actually, Longzi's plan is pretty good. It's just that he's unlucky to have met us, especially little Qin. In less than half a day's time, we've already figured out his goal. Hearing this, the king looked at Longqin, shook his head and sighed. Yes, if it weren't for you guys, the plan would have succeeded. This may be fate. Thinking about the fighting souls of Qin Feiyong and the others, it was incredible to the extreme. Anyway, you must be careful when facing the Central Dynasty. And I have a hunch that the two geniuses may also appear this time. Also, the Dragon God and Neptune both have the power of origin. The Divine King and I, the supreme of the human race, will not dare to do anything in the future. You can only rely on yourselves. The king warned. Okay. Qin Feiyong nodded. After the conversation, Qin Feiyong put away the voice transmission stone and looked at the Dragon God, who was standing above the ruins with a gloomy face, and said with a smile, Let's go and try our luck. After that, he controlled the Black Tortoise realm and flew silently to the west. What luck! The white-eyed wolf and Longqin were startled and looked at him suspiciously. Weren't the bodies and divine souls of the 17 beast gods destroyed by Heavenly Lord Ji? Let's go to their nest now and see if we can find their divine souls. Qin Feiyong's eyes twinkled. Hearing this, the white-eyed wolf and Longqin's eyes brightened. The bodies and divine souls of the 17 beast gods had been destroyed, leaving only their broken souls. If they could really find them and capture them, wouldn't it be a piece of cake? Because when facing them in such a state, these broken souls would have no chance to fight back. A while later, the Black Tortoise realm landed above a mountain. The mountains were undulating and the vegetation was lush, but judging from the distribution of the terrain, a battle had taken place here. Because this was the nest of the heavenly Peng, Qin Feiyong and the others observed for a while, and found that there were many beast lords and beast emperors hiding in the nest. They were all hiding in the dark and their eyes were full of vigilance. This is strange. When we first came here, we didn't see so many beast emperors and beast lords. The white-eyed wolf mumbled. Do you still need to think? Usually this is a forbidden area. No beast dares to set foot here. But now that the heavenly Peng is in our hands, there are so many beast lords and beast emperors gathered here. It seems that they are guarding something? Longqin whispered. Guarding the broken souls of the heavenly Peng? The white-eyed wolf spirit was lifted. From the looks of it, that's most likely the case. Longqin nodded and turned to Qin Feiyong with a smile. Looks like we are quite lucky. Maybe. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. Longqin was confused. Maybe, what do you mean? Logically speaking, the broken souls of the beast gods should be kept by the dragon god himself. Because this is the safest way. I don't believe that these beast gods would be stupid enough to keep the broken souls in their own lair, and let this group of weak beast lords and beast emperors guard them. Qin Feiyong speculated. At first, he also thought that they were quite lucky. But now he thought about it carefully and felt that it was a little too smooth. So he was a little uncertain in his heart. What if they are that stupid? The white-eyed wolf bared its teeth. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but shake his head and smile bitterly. Who were they looking down on? After all, they were the beast gods of the beast race. If they were really stupid, how could they have gotten to where they were today? However, since they were already here and the broken soul of the heavenly Peng might be here, they naturally had to go out and take a look. Swish! Without warning, he appeared in the mountains outside alone. Qin Feiyang. The pupils of the beast emperors and beast lords hiding in the mountains suddenly shrank. Qin Feiyang ignored them. The invisible divine sense was like a tide, covering the entire mountain in an instant. Immediately, his eyes were full of surprise. Underground, he found a secret chamber. This secret chamber seemed to be newly built. Could it be that the broken soul of the heavenly Peng was really here? Qin Feiyang, what are you doing? Get lost immediately. A group of beast emperors and beast lords ran out. But none of them dared to approach Qin Feiyang. They all stood far away. On one side, they were afraid, and on the other, they showed a fierce look. It was really a bit funny. Chapter 41-49. Rumble. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the ground below cracked. The secret hidden underground broke through the ground and floated in the air. Stop it! Seeing this scene, the group of beast sovereigns and beast emperors anxiously roared. It can't really be inside, right? Qin Feiyang muttered. If it wasn't, these beast emperors and beast sovereigns' acting skills were too good. He was secretly cautious as he walked to the secret chamber. He discovered that this secret chamber could actually block the probing of divine consciousness. In other words, only by opening the secret chamber could he find out what was inside. After observing for a while, Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and a surge of life and death energy appeared and blasted toward the secret chamber. With a cracking sound, the secret chamber broke on the spot. But at the same time, the beast emperors and beast sovereigns' eyes flashed fiercely as they turned around and ran. This unforeseen event made Qin Feiyang frown. Clang! Before he could think about it carefully, a deafening sound suddenly rang out in the broken secret chamber, followed by an earth-shattering power. The broken secret chamber was instantly shattered and turned into dust. A strand of starlight shot out explosively from within the dust, and it shot towards Qin Feiyang like a bolt of lightning, causing Qin Feiyang to feel an extremely great sense of danger. A high-grade sovereign weapon! Qin Feiyang's eyelids twitched, and he decisively retreated. What entered his sight was an ancient pagoda. It looked like it was made of stars and emitted dazzling starlight. His acting skills are really good, Qin Feiyang muttered. Previously, he almost believed that this secret chamber contained Tian Peng's remnant soul. Fortunately, he didn't let his guard down. Otherwise, this ancient pagoda in front of him would be enough to kill him instantly. This was because this was a high-grade sovereign weapon. If he was caught off guard, even with his abilities, he would definitely die. He dodged it. The ancient pagoda was also very surprised. It thought that it could catch Qin Feiyang off guard, but it didn't expect him to react so quickly. If you know me well enough, you wouldn't be so surprised, Qin Feiyang said. Killing intent flashed in his eyes. Needless to say, this ancient pagoda must be the dragon god's sovereign godly weapon. The dragon god must have guessed that he would come to find the heavenly Peng's remnant soul, so he created a secret room and had the ancient pagoda set up an ambush here, catching him off guard. From the looks of it, this dragon god was also a very shrewd person. So you've already discovered that there's a problem here? But that's not important. Anyway, don't even think about leaving today. Guda snorted coldly. Divine might rolled out, crazily attacking Qin Feiyang. You have a good plan. Hold me back. When the dragon god arrives, only death awaits me. But this is where you overestimate yourself. As Qin Feiyang's voice fell, 3,000 incarnations appeared. Rumble. All the ultimate mysteries were instantly activated. Seeing this situation, Guta was shocked. He immediately fled in fear without looking back. This was really a decisive young man. If it was another young man who saw through the other party's conspiracy, he would definitely look down on the other party proudly, showing off his intelligence and ability. But this person, Not only did he not, but he also went all out. Sure enough, the geniuses of the divine kingdom couldn't compare to him. Running? Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. The 3,000 incarnations waved their hands, and waves of ultimate mysteries flooded the void and the earth, rushing toward the ancient pagoda. Dragon God, save me! Buddha roared in despair. Accompanied by a crack, his body shattered on the spot. Just as he was about to be destroyed, a figure descended from the sky. It was the Dragon God. Looking at the situation of the ancient pagoda, the Dragon God's face sank. His origin force emerged, turning into a 3-foot-long sword, and slashed out. The ultimate mysteries of the 3,000 incarnations were immediately shattered like rotten wood. You came really fast. Qin Feiyang smiled at the Dragon God, opened a space-time tunnel, turned around, and left without looking back. He definitely couldn't continue fighting. The origin force of the divine kingdom wasn't something he could compete with. If he stayed for a little longer, he might not be able to escape. Looking at the leaving Qin Feiyang, the Dragon God wanted to chase after him, but he was powerless. He turned to look at Buddha and said in a deep voice, "Did you expose your whereabouts in advance?" "Absolutely not." Buddha, who had escaped death, flew to the front of the Dragon God, still full of fear. "Then why didn't your sneak attack succeed?" The Dragon God was furious. "I can only say that he was too vigilant." Buddha sighed. Hearing this, the Dragon God couldn't help but clench his fists. Although he didn't want to admit it, the facts had proven that he had underestimated this person all along. If it was someone else who found a secret room hidden underground, and this secret room could even block the probing of divine sense, they would definitely believe that Tianpeng's remnant soul was hidden inside. But this Qin Feiyang still had a vigilant attitude. Not only was he strong, but he was also so vigilant. It seemed that it wouldn't be as easy to get rid of this person. In short, at this moment, he finally recognized the reality. These years, Qin Feiyang and the others were able to easily deal with the encirclement and pursuit of the 3 major races in the Divine Kingdom, not because of luck, but because they really had the ability to deal with it. Black Tortoise Realm. Seeing Qin Feiyang appear in the Devil's Land, Longqin couldn't help but smile bitterly. I didn't expect it to be a trap. If it was her this time, she would definitely suffer a big loss. So we can't just look at the surface of many things. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. The white-eyed wolf frowned. According to the current situation, Tianpeng's remnant soul should be in the hands of the Dragon God? Yes. Including the remnant souls of the other beast gods, they must be in the custody of the Dragon God himself. Qin Feiyang nodded. Then do we still want to go to the lairs of the other beast gods? The white-eyed wolf asked. There's no need for that. Let's go directly to the Sea Clan. Qin Feiyang smiled. The white-eyed wolf and Longqin looked at each other, suddenly excited. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and said, but before we go to the Sea Clan we still need to plan. Plan what? Longqin was puzzled. Neptune had already gone to the Central Dynasty, and no one could threaten them. They could go directly to the Sea Clan. Although Neptune has gone to the Central Dynasty, there's still the Dragon God. What if the Sea Clan asks the Dragon God for help? Won't our efforts be in vain? So, we have to think of a way to cut off the connection between the Sea Clan and the Dragon God. Qin Feiyang pondered. Cut off their connection? I'm afraid that's not possible. Unless we can seal off the entire Sea Clan. But if we seal off the Sea Clan, it will alarm the beast race. With the relationship between the beast race and the Sea Clan, the Dragon God will definitely go and investigate. Longqin was worried. Hearing Qin Feiyang's words, it seemed that it would not be so easy to wipe out the entire Sea Clan in one fell swoop. Then why don't we find an opportunity to destroy the Dragon God's voice transmission stone? The white-eyed wolf suggested. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang and Longqin couldn't help but roll their eyes. Destroying the Dragon God's voice transmission stone would solve the problem? Even if they couldn't use the voice transmission stone, the people of the Sea Clan could personally come to the Dragon God. Besides, there were so many beast venerables, beast gods, and beast emperors in the beast race. There was definitely no shortage of people who could establish a contract bridge with the Sea Clan. This method was meaningless at all. If only there was someone who could restrain the dragon god. Longqin muttered. Restrain the dragon god? Don't joke around. Who has the ability to restrain the dragon god who controls the power of origin? The white-eyed wolf smiled bitterly. Even if the king and the others came forward, they might not have the ability. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and said, Since we can't think of a way to get the best of both worlds, then we'll act according to the situation and kill as many as we can. Okay. The white-eyed wolf and Longqin nodded. With Qin Feiyang's current strength, as long as he was nimble, he should be able to get rid of most of the Sea clan before the dragon god heard the news and came to help. But if Frenzy Li Feng, Mu Qing, Mu Tianyang, Dong Xingyang, and brother can come out of seclusion now, then our chances will be greater. Longqin laughed. I also want to wait for them to come out, but time doesn't allow it. That's because no one knows when the Sea King will return. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. Longqin nodded. Frenzy should be coming out soon. After all, he had already mastered several ultimate mysteries of the strongest law. Longchen and Li Feng had also mastered one or two ultimate mysteries in the past. But Mu Qing, Dong Xingyang, and Mu Tianyang didn't even have one ultimate mystery of the strongest law. In other words, they had to start from scratch. If they had already comprehended various ultimate laws, it would be very fast. They just needed to fuse them. But now, they needed to comprehend first, and only when they comprehended the corresponding ultimate law could they fuse the ultimate mysteries. It would also take a long time to comprehend the corresponding ultimate law. Don't think so much, get ready to fight. There's no need to show mercy to the Sea clan. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and appeared above the mountains outside with the two. He immediately opened a space-time tunnel. This space-time tunnel leads to the Sea clan's holy land, Sea God's Island. Sea God's Island is equivalent to the human clan's supreme mountain, the God clan's island, and the purple gold divine dragon clan's land. The Sea clan living on Sea God's Island are basically existences who have mastered the ultimate mysteries of the strongest law. Of course, there are also more outstanding geniuses of the Sea clan. So, as long as we wipe out Sea God's Island, the Sea clan will basically be declared extinct. Qin Feiyang said. Understood. White-eyed wolf and Li Feng nodded. A murderous aura spread out. Then the three of them stepped into the space-time tunnel one after another. The coordinates of Sea God's Island were, of course, obtained by Qin Feiyang when he read the memories of the Blood-Wing Sea God. Anyway now, Qin Feiyang knew the situation of the Sea clan like the back of his hand. Splash. A vast sea was located on the other side of the East continent. The waves were rolling and boundless. A huge island stood in the center of the sea. From afar, it looked like a complete continent floating on the sea. On the island, there were mountains and forests, and ancient trees towered into the sky. A huge city was located in the center of the island. The tall city walls, the ancient buildings, and the magnificent aura were extremely magnificent. Chapter 4150. This was the sacred land of the Sea clan, Sea God's Island. In addition to Sea God's Island, there were many other islands of various sizes in the sea area. The creatures living on these islands were all members of the Sea clan. It was no exaggeration to say that the number of Sea clan members in the Divine Kingdom was no less than the God clan. At this moment, Sea God's Island was also heavily guarded. Although Qin Feiyang and the others had never set foot in the Sea clan's territory, the Sea clan had been vigilant ever since the Battle of Dragon God Mountain. There was a saying that went, "Prevention is better than cure." They were also worried that Qin Feiyang and the others would come to cause trouble. Especially now. Neptune left the East continent and went to the Central Dynasty. Near Sea God's Island, Qin Feiyang and the other two walked out of the space-time tunnel and looked at the island in front of them. Even from afar, they could sense the powerful auras coming from all directions. Let's go. The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth. Don't worry. Qin Feiyang stopped the white-eyed wolf. With a thought, 3,000 incarnations appeared silently. Surround Sea God's Island. Don't let a single member of the Sea clan escape. The 3,000 incarnations laughed. Immediately, they scattered in all directions, disappearing from the island like ghosts. After a while, After confirming that the 3,000 incarnations had surrounded Sea God's Island, Qin Feiyang opened another space-time tunnel and said with a smile, "Let's go and give them a surprise." At the same time, on a mountain peak, two sea gods stood in the wind and scanned the sky around them. They were two middle-aged men. One had black wings on his back, and the other had white wings on his back. Don't say. At first glance, they were really similar to the black-winged emperor and the white-winged emperor of the mermaid clan. The black-winged sea god frowned and said, "Actually, we don't have to be so worried. Lord Neptune has the power of origin. Even if Qin Feiyang and the others have 100 guts, they won't dare to cause trouble for us." Indeed. Although Neptune has gone to the Central Dynasty, Qin Feiyang and the others don't know about this. They probably still think that Lord Neptune is in the Sea Clan. The white-winged sea god nodded. This kind of worry was purely superfluous. Unless Qin Feiyang had the ability to predict the future and knew that Neptune had left the sea. However, this group of people is truly audacious. They actually dared to kidnap the blood-winged sea god. Just you wait. Sooner or later, I'll let this group of trash experience the consequences of offending our sea clan. However, before he finished speaking, the two of them seemed to have discovered something. They looked up into the sky and saw a space-time tunnel appear. The two. Sea God's Island, God's Island. SS's. Gods is gods. The two of them soared into the air to welcome him. However, when the three figures came out of the space-time tunnel, the two changed their expressions. They even rubbed their eyes in disbelief. How could it be these three? This was too accurate, right? Speak of the devil and he will appear? They're not friendly. But don't panic now. Otherwise, when they know that Neptune has gone to the Central Dynasty, they will definitely take the opportunity to attack us. Go down and secretly inform the dragon god to come and help. The white-winged sea god said. The black-winged sea god nodded. However, before he could leave, Long Qin's gaze was already fixed on him. She teased, "Where are you going?" There was a strange light in her eyes. Obviously, she had quietly activated her fighting soul. The black-winged sea god's eyes trembled. He tried to keep calm and said with a sneer, "Of course I'm going to inform Lord Neptune to come and welcome you three distinguished guests." He was still hiding it. But he didn't know that Qin Feiyang and the others had already known. And Long Qin had heard what the white-winged sea god had secretly said to him before. "I really don't deserve to be called distinguished guests. But don't be nervous. We're here to visit Lord Neptune." "May I know where Lord Neptune is?" Qin Feiyang looked at the two of them jokingly. "Let's see how long you can pretend." The black-winged sea god said. "Lord Neptune is of course on the Sea God Island. Don't worry, I'll go and inform him now." "Is that so? Are you going to inform Neptune? Or are you going to send a message to the dragon god?" Long Qin smiled playfully. The black-winged sea god and the others panicked. How did he know what they were planning? Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and said with a smile, "Actually, you don't have to ask the dragon god for help. Because even if you ask the dragon god for help, he won't help you." "What do you mean?" The two of them were surprised. "Because we already know that Neptune is going to the Central Dynasty. But do you know why we found out about this right after the Sea King left?" Qin Feiyang said. The two of them were shocked. They actually knew that Lord Neptune was going to the Central Dynasty? They asked, "How did you know?" "Who else knows that Neptune is going to the Central Dynasty?" Qin Feiyang asked. The two of them pondered for a while, and their eyes were filled with disbelief. "That's right. It was the dragon god himself who told us." Because other than the dragon god, even the king didn't know that Neptune was going to the Central Dynasty, so it's not hard to imagine that they must have informed us. Qin Feiyang chuckled. "Impossible." The two of them shook their heads. "Otherwise, how would we know? To tell you the truth, the dragon god has been unhappy with the Oceanids for a long time. And he has secretly formed an alliance with us. Although we've been acting as if we're mortal enemies during this period of time, it's all just an act for the Oceanic clan, Human clan, God clan, and Golden God clan. In fact, we've been working together to get rid of you. As long as we get rid of the Oceanids, The beast race will be the only overlord of the East continent. After we get rid of the Oceanids, we'll slowly deal with the gods, humans, and purple gold divine dragons. This way, the 4 continents of the divine kingdom will be under the dragon god's control. So prepare to die. Qin Feiyong raised his head and laughed. All kinds of ultimates appeared. Damn the dragon god. Everyone listen to my order. Qin Feiyong is attacking. Run for your lives. And find an opportunity to ask the humans, gods, and purple gold divine dragons for help. The dragon god has joined forces with Qin Feiyong to get rid of the 4 races. The 2 sea gods roared. What? Qin Feiyong is attacking. The dragon god has joined forces with Qin Feiyong? How is this possible? Their voices were like a bell, shaking the sky. The Oceanids on the sea god's island ran out and looked up at the sky. Their eyes were trembling. It was indeed Qin Feiyong. At the same time, White-Eyed Wolf and Longqin looked at each other and looked at Qin Feiyong strangely. This guy's brain is too flexible. He thought of sowing dissension so quickly. In this way, the Oceanids would definitely not ask the dragon god for help. Moreover, this sowing dissension was indeed backed up with evidence. Only the dragon god knew that Neptune had gone to the central dynasty. So, even if the Oceanids were not willing to believe it, they would still be suspicious of the dragon god. Let's go. A few more angry roars were heard. More than 10 figures soared into the sky in an aggressive manner. These were the other sea gods. A total of 19 people, because the blood-winged sea god had fallen into the hands of Qin Feiyong. The 2 sea gods that had stayed in the purple gold divine dragon clan, and the god clan had returned to the sea god's island after the incident. In short, all the sea gods were present at this moment. I'll kill you first. A cold light flashed in Qin Feiyong's eyes. All the ultimate profound meanings immediately emitted a destructive divine power and attacked the 17 sea gods. White-Eyed Wolf and Longqin looked at each other and attacked the black-winged sea god and the white-winged sea god respectively. Don't fight. When our clansmen escape from the sea god's island, we will leave and retreat. The black-winged sea god shouted. I'm afraid none of your Oceanids will be able to escape from the sea god's island. Longqin sneered. You. The black-winged sea god looked at Longqin in shock and anger. What was going on? Why couldn't he escape this woman's ears no matter what he said? Boom. The battle began. The 17 sea gods in the sky emitted a ruthless light in their eyes. Each of them had activated 6 ultimate profound meanings, and the will of the heavenly Tao erupted. The void here was collapsing piece by piece. It was like a scene of doomsday. Quickly finish him off before he activates his 3,000 clones. 17 sea gods and 102 ultimate intents of ultimate laws. Such a lineup could be said to be shocking. Qin Feiyong's eyes couldn't help but turn solemn. The ultimate profound meanings of the law of life and death, coupled with the will of the heavenly Tao, were enough to contend against 12 ultimate profound meanings that also contained the will of the heavenly Tao. Destruction, life, death, space-time, karma, and time. These were the ultimate profound meanings of the 6 ultimate profound meanings of the 6 ultimate profound meanings of the heavenly Tao. At this time, with the support of the will of the heavenly Tao, each of them was enough to contend against 6 ultimate profound meanings of the 6 ultimate profound meanings of the heavenly Tao. In other words, his 6 ultimate profound meanings of the 6 ultimate profound meanings of the sea gods could contend against the 36 ultimate profound meanings of the other party. But it was still far from enough. Because even the ultimate profound meanings of the law of life and death, and the 6 ultimate profound meanings of the sea gods, could only contend against 48 ultimate profound meanings of the heavenly Tao. It seemed that it was indeed a little difficult to deal with so many sea gods without 3,000 clones. However, the 3,000 clones were now surrounding the sea god's island, and couldn't come to support him. He could only rely on himself. Boom. In an instant, more than 100 ultimate profound meanings collided. Qin Feiyong spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot, and his face couldn't help but turn pale. What's going on? He didn't activate his 3,000 clones? The 17 sea gods were surprised. Even if he had mastered the ultimate profound meaning of the law of life and death, and his will of the heavenly Tao was stronger than theirs, He shouldn't be so careless, right? Moreover, from their contact during this period of time, Qin Feiyang wasn't a careless person. Why was he doing this? But soon an uneasy premonition arose in their hearts. But they couldn't tell what it was. They just felt that something big was about to happen. Don't worry about that. Hurry up and kill them. The black-winged sea god roared. His opponent was the white-eyed wolf. The white-eyed wolf's strength and combat awareness were not inferior to his at all. It was difficult to tell who would win. Chapter 3. Release at 9:30. Chapter 4151. Yes. As long as we can kill Qin Feiyang, everything will be solved. Killing intent surged in the eyes of the sea gods. It didn't matter why Qin Feiyang didn't activate his 3,000 clones, as long as they could kill him. Boom. The 17 sea gods charged towards Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang dodged again and again, and in just a few breaths, his entire body was covered in blood. If it wasn't for his strong foundation, he would have died in the hands of these people. In the blink of an eye. At this moment, countless members of the Sea clan had almost escaped from the island. It was also at this moment. The corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth lifted and he shouted, "Do it." His voice was like thunder, shaking the sky. The 19 sea gods were surprised. Do it. What did he mean? But in the next moment, they suddenly understood. They also finally understood why Qin Feiyang didn't activate his 3,000 clones. Because his 3,000 clones were surrounding the sea god's island. Boom. As Qin Feiyang's voice fell, a terrifying divine might erupted around the sea god's island. Following closely, the clones rushed out like a pack of wolves. All the ultimate mysteries and the will of the heavenly Tao were not held back. Screams resounded in the sky. This was a massacre. The strongest person of the Sea clan, Neptune, went to the central dynasty. The 19 sea venerables were restrained by Qin Feiyang, and the other two. But facing those clones, who had the ability to stop them. Don't panic. Hurry up and attack together. We have more people, we can fight. An elder of the Sea clan roared. This person had white hair and blood wings on his back. He had 6 ultimate mysteries, but 2 of them were ordinary laws, so he didn't master the will of the heavenly Tao. Courting death. As the saying goes, the hunter shoots the bird that sticks out. Seeing this, one of the clones immediately charged towards the old man. Accompanied by a scream, the old man's blood splattered in the sky, leaving only a wisp of remnant soul. The clone waved his hand, sealed the remnant soul, and continued to kill others. Sealing the remnant soul was naturally to strip them of their ultimate mysteries in the future. Anyway, with the current strength of Qin Feiyang's clones, he could wipe out a large number of them with a wave of his hand. This was because the strength of these incarnations was no different from Qin Feiyang's true body. They could also activate the ultimate profundities of the laws of life and death. And they also possessed the fused will of the heavenly Daos. Are you demons? The 19 sea gods stared at Qin Feiyang and the other 2 as they gritted their teeth in anger. Devil? Why didn't you reflect on yourselves when you joined forces to kill us? A cold light flashed in Qin Feiyang's eyes as he swept his gaze over the shattered sea god's island. The oceanic species had too many experts. Even if the 3,000 clones could fight against 100 of them, they would not be able to finish them off in a short period of time. He had to speed up. Although no one was sending a telepathic message to the dragon god for help now, the dragon god would receive the news sooner or later. Whoosh! With a wave of his hand, Mu Tianyang and the fiend ancestor appeared. As soon as the 2 of them appeared and saw the scene, they were stunned. What were they trying to do now? You have already integrated 1 or 2 ultimate profundities. It shouldn't be a problem for you to protect yourselves. Hurry up and use your eyes of despair and evil eyes to help the 3,000 clones. Qin Feiyang urged. Okay. The 2 of them nodded. Although they didn't know what was going on, since it was Qin Feiyang's request, they naturally couldn't neglect it. Whoosh. The 2 of them took a step forward and rushed into the island. The eyes of despair and evil eyes were instantly activated. Any oceanic species that were targeted by the eyes of despair immediately fell into the abyss of despair, trembling on the ground. The eyes of evil was even more terrifying. It directly controlled the oceanic species to kill each other. The strongest fighting soul, eyes of despair, the 19 sea gods murmured. Damn it. All of you deserve to die. All of a sudden, the 19 oceanic gods roared as they bared their fangs, and they charged towards Qin Feiyang's group of 3 as if they'd gone mad. Without the 3,000 clones, even if your strength is heaven-defying, you won't be able to escape death today, one of the sea gods roared. Before saying this, I advise you to count the number of clones carefully. Qin Feiyang sneered. What? The group of sea gods was shocked. Do you think I'm unprepared? Qin Feiyang moved his mind and 10 clones appeared beside him. The bodies of the sea gods stiffened. I already knew that there are 19 sea gods here, so I deliberately left 10 clones behind. In other words, there are only 2,990 clones surrounding the sea god island. Although the number is still not as good as yours, the quality is far above yours. You should be prepared. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly. Qin Feiyang and the 10 clones immediately stepped forward and activated their ultimate profundities and charged toward the 17 sea gods. It was almost a 1 versus 2 situation. However, if the current Qin Feiyang were to fight 1-on-1, not to mention 1 against 2, even 1 against 6 or 7 wouldn't be a problem. Because even if there were 6 or 7 opponents, the total number of ultimate profundities would only add up to more than 40. Boom. With the appearance of these 10 clones, the battle immediately became one-sided. The 17 sea gods were covered in wounds in just a few breaths. However, the white-eyed wolf and Longqin had both met their opponents. Because the black-winged sea god and the white-winged sea god were almost on par with them. However, if they continued to fight, the 2 sea gods would definitely lose. Because the white-eyed wolf had already activated his fighting soul and deprived the 2 of their cultivation while fighting. Why did he deprive the 2 sea gods of their cultivation? Because firstly, the speed of depriving them of their cultivation was faster than depriving them of their laws. Secondly, if their laws were deprived by the white-eyed wolf's fighting soul, they would lose them forever. At that time, it would be equivalent to losing a few ultimate profundities of ultimate profundities. This was a losing business. At the same time, the black-winged sea god and the white-winged sea god were also aware of the crisis. Because of the change in their cultivation, they could clearly feel it. The black-winged sea god and the white-winged sea god looked at each other, and a hint of ruthlessness flashed in their eyes at the same time. Without any warning, 2 divine weapons appeared. A sky-blue treasure mirror flickered with divine light, illuminating the heavens. A battle axe, blood-red all over, was like a peerless ferocious object, with a monstrous baleful aura. These 2 divine weapons were both mid-level dominator divine weapons. The 2 sea gods took them out without any warning. That was to catch the white-eyed wolf and Longqin off guard. However, they had underestimated the white-eyed wolf and Longqin too much. The God Clan, the Human Clan, the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan, including the Beast Sovereign, all had powerful Dominator divine weapons. As one of the Dominator's confidants, how could the Sea Clan not have one? So although they didn't say it out loud in their hearts, they were already on guard at all times. Just as the 2 mid-level Dominator divine weapons attacked the white-eyed wolf and Longqin, Longqin's angel sword attacked. Clang. At the same time, Qin Feiyang, who was fighting with the other 17 sea gods, had a hint of mockery in his eyes. With a wave of his hand, the flame magic sword appeared. Like a bolt of lightning, it instantly cut through the sky and landed in front of the white-eyed wolf. The white-eyed wolf grabbed the flame magic sword and fought the 2 sea gods together with Longqin. What kind of monsters are they to be able to react so suddenly? The black-winged sea god and the white-winged sea god became more and more shocked as they fought. They felt that the battle experience and consciousness of this group of young people were even more terrifying than the old antiques who had experienced life and death. You want to turn the tables with just 2 mid-level Dominator divine weapons? Hurry up and take out your high-level Dominator divine weapon. Qin Feiyang slapped a sea god with his palm, and the power of life and death roared out like a torrent. The already seriously injured sea god flew out on the spot, blood staining the sky. It seems that your Sea Clan's high-level Dominator divine weapon should be on Neptune. Then it's a pity. You have no chance of turning the tables. Killing intent surged in Qin Feiyang's eyes. He activated instant time and rushed in front of the sea god, grabbed the wings on his back, and tore them off. The sea god was in heart-wrenching pain. In fact, even if Neptune hadn't taken away the high-level Dominator divine weapon, the Sea Clan wouldn't have had a chance to turn the tables. Let's fight it out with them. Self-destruct. One of the sea gods roared. No. Although we have split our divine souls in advance, our clansmen haven't. If we self-destruct, our clansmen will all die. The other sea gods roared through voice transmissions. Even if we don't self-destruct, our clansmen will all die in their hands. What's the difference? Self-destruct. As long as we can drag them to hell, our clansmen's sacrifice will be worth it. The sea god who advocated self-destructing sighed. Not good. They want to self-destruct. Longqin roared. Self-destruct? They have to get our permission first. The white-eyed wolf and Qin Feiyang sneered. The 10 clones suddenly unleashed wisps of even more terrifying power. Now, they were going all out. What? They didn't use their full strength before. The sea god's expressions changed. The 10 clones waved their hands. 10 kingdoms of life and death, 60 ultimate laws, and ultimate profundities blasted toward the 17 sea gods. Ah! Accompanied by screams, the bodies of the 17 sea gods were shattered in the void at almost the same time. Blood stained the surroundings. Their divine souls were also severely injured. Want to self-destruct and die together? Is that possible? Qin Feiyang looked at the remnant souls of the sea gods and sneered. Why is it that no matter what we say in secret, you can know? The group of sea gods was furious. Because we are gods. The 10 clones laughed. We are gods. The eyes of the group of sea gods trembled. Although this sentence was a bit absurd, at this moment, when it fell into their ears, it carried an invisible aura that shocked their hearts and minds. In a trance, this Qin Feiyang and the 10 clones in front of them really looked like the clones of gods. Strip. At this moment, the white-eyed wolf roared, and the black-winged sea god and white-winged sea god's cultivation suddenly fell to the perfected Dominator realm. What? The 2 sea gods suddenly panicked. The next moment, a fatal crisis struck. Longqin and the white-eyed wolf attacked, and their physical bodies were shattered on the spot. Only a remnant soul was left. At this moment, the 20 sea gods of the Oceanic clan were all wiped out. Seeing this, the 2 mid-level Dominator divine weapons immediately turned around and fled for their lives. The white-eyed wolf was about to chase after them. Qin Feiyang shouted. Don't chase, quickly seal their remnant souls, don't let them self-destruct. Compared to the Dominator divine weapons, the ultimate profundities of the 2 sea gods were more valuable. Chapter 4152. Consider yourselves lucky. The white-eyed wolf stared at the 2 mid-level sovereign weapons and snorted. He then quickly sealed the 2 remnant souls of the sea gods. On the other side, the 10 avatars had also sealed the remnant souls of the 17 sea gods. They had won the battle high up in the sky. On the island below, many members of the Oceanic tribe were in despair when they saw this scene. Neptune wasn't here. The 19 sea gods were the pillars of the Oceanic tribe. But now, the 19 sea gods had been annihilated. Even the 2 mid-level sovereign weapons had fled for their lives. Even the sea gods who had mastered the will of the heavenly Tao couldn't stop Qin Feiyang and the others. How could they stop them? If the appearance of the 3,000 avatars and the demon ancestor had made them on the verge of collapse, then the death of the 19 sea gods had undoubtedly made them collapse completely. Don't kill us, please. Many of the younger members of the Oceanic tribe were so frightened that they knelt on the ground and kowtowed to beg for mercy. These young members of the Oceanic tribe were either prodigies who had mastered the ultimate profound meaning, or core members of the Oceanic tribe. They had noble statuses and countless people respected them. At the same time, being able to stay on the sea god's island was also something they could show off. But now, they couldn't wait to leave this damned place. They had never thought that the supreme holy land of the Oceanic tribe would be facing such a disaster. No. Lord Neptune, where are you? Come back and save us. The entire sea god's island was filled with desperate cries. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and sent the 17 remnant souls of the Oceanic tribe into the ancient castle's cultivation room. He looked at the white-eyed wolf and Long Qin and said, "Come and help." The battle had been going on for so long. The dragon god should have sensed the situation here. He had to capture as many members of the oceanic tribe as possible. Whoosh! With the addition of Qin Feiyang and the other two avatars, as well as the blazing magic sword and the angel sword, it was an even more devastating scene. Some members of the oceanic tribe couldn't bear the despair and chose to self-destruct. With Mu Tianyang and Demon Alpha there, they could not self-destruct. That was how scary the Eye of Despair and Evil Eye were. The eyes of despair would cause the opponent to fall into the abyss of despair, causing them to lose all courage. The evil eye, on the other hand, controlled the 7 emotions and 6 desires of the opponent. Therefore, these two fighting souls were actually used to control the emotions of living beings. You want to self-destruct? Unless you can get rid of despair and manipulation. But how many living beings in the world could easily escape from it? Even the cold-blooded and merciless devils had despair and desires hidden in their hearts. Furthermore, if it was so easy to get rid of it, could it still be called the strongest fighting soul in the world? Time passed quietly. At this moment, 2/3 of the sea tribe members on the Sea God's Island had already been reduced to remnant souls. The broken Sea God's Island was dyed red with blood. Looking from afar, it was like an Azura hell, a ghastly sight. Boom! Right at this moment, in the sky, suddenly, a space-time tunnel appeared. A terrifying aura rushed out of the space-time tunnel. Qin Feiyang and the other two raised their heads, a cold light flashing in their eyes. Because the owner of this aura was none other than the dragon god. "Let's go! 1,000 Phoenix Mountain, meet up!" Qin Feiyang shouted secretly. There was no greed. The dragon god had descended, they had to leave. Facing such an existence, they had to be decisive, otherwise, they wouldn't be able to leave even if they wanted to. All of a sudden, the 3,000 incarnations opened a space-time tunnel one after another, bringing along their sealed remnant souls, turned around and left without looking back. Qin Feiyang also opened a space-time tunnel, but he stood in front of the tunnel and didn't leave immediately. Swish! High in the sky, the dragon god finally walked out of the space-time tunnel. Looking at the current Sea God's Island, his expression changed drastically. "Lord Dragon God, thank you for informing us. This junior will definitely repay you generously in the future." Qin Feiyang opened his mouth and smiled. After saying this, he turned around and entered the space-time tunnel with the white-eyed wolf, disappearing without a trace in the blink of an eye. It's Qin Feiyang's voice. The dragon god looked in the direction of the voice, and happened to see Qin Feiyang and the other two disappearing figures. Suddenly, a monstrous murderous aura erupted from his body. Scoundrel! He actually came to massacre the Sea God's Island. This was intolerable. However, seeing the dragon god descend, especially after hearing Qin Feiyang's words before leaving, the survivors of the Sea clan gathered together and stared at the dragon god warily. At the same time, their eyes were filled with resentment and hatred. "Why are you staring at me like that?" The dragon god furrowed his brows. "You know very well in your heart." Someone roared. The dragon god raised his eyebrows. Suddenly, he remembered Qin Feiyang's words before leaving. Thank you for informing him? He would definitely repay him generously in the future? What did this mean? Swish! Right then, the king, the divine king, and the supremes of the human race arrived slowly. Looking at the Sea God's Island in front of them, they couldn't help but feel shocked. This group of little guys really knew how to cause trouble. They had rushed over after receiving the news. Although previously, the 3,000 clones had deliberately prevented the Sea Clan from spreading the news, there were too many Sea Clan members on the Sea God's Island. There would always be someone who would find an opportunity. At first, when the king and the other two heard the news, they were in extreme disbelief. The Sea God's Island was the sacred land of the Sea Clan. This group of little guys dared to attack the Sea God's Island? Unexpectedly, when they came over, it was really so. Of course, their visit this time was just a formality, because if they really came to support, it wouldn't be just the three of them. What's going on? Where are Neptune and the Sea God? The monarch pretended to be surprised. King, divine king, supremes. The rest of the Sea Clan members flew to the three of them. Even if the remaining Sea Clan members were only 1/3 of the original number, there were at least hundreds of thousands of them. Don't panic, speak slowly. The Divine King comforted them. It's all because of him. He tipped off Qin Feiyang and asked Qin Feiyang to come to the Sea God's Island to kill us. An old man pointed at the dragon god and roared. What? The king and the other two looked at the dragon god in disbelief and asked, You colluded with Qin Feiyang? What nonsense are you talking about? How could I have colluded with them? The dragon god roared. He looked at the group of Sea Clan members and said in a deep voice, Speak clearly, what's going on? Don't put on an act here. The Sea Clan members were filled with righteous indignation. Why should I put on an act? The dragon god roared. The old man said in a deep voice, Are you the only one who knows that Lord Neptune went to the Central Dynasty? What? Neptune went to the Central Dynasty? The king and the other two were stunned. Although they had already heard about it from Qin Feiyang, they still had to pretend that they didn't know. Yes. I also heard it from Lord White-Winged Sea God. Lord White-Winged Sea God said that because the dragon god killed Ji Tianfeng, Lord Neptune went to the Central Dynasty out of goodwill, and asked the people of the Central Dynasty to mediate. But we didn't expect that not long after Lord Neptune left, Qin Feiyang led people to kill our Sea God's Island. The old man's face was filled with grief. The king and the other two looked at each other, and immediately looked at the dragon god. He said angrily, So you colluded with them, and now you're accusing us. You really know how to act. I didn't. If I really colluded with them, if I really told them, why would I rush to the Sea God's Island to check the situation? The dragon god roared. Don't pretend. 19 Lord White-Winged Sea Gods were all captured by them. 2/3 of the people on the Sea God's Island fell into their hands. What's the point of you rushing over now? The Sea Clan members stared at the dragon god with resentment. What? All of your sea gods were captured? The king and the other two were aghast. Yes. Including Lord White-Winged Sea God, all of our sea gods were wiped out. Monarch, Deity King, Jizun, you must seek justice for us. The group of Sea Clan members cried out in grief. Don't worry. We won't stand by and watch this matter. When we return, we will immediately send more people to hunt down Qin Feiyang and his group. No matter what, we will rescue your people. The king said in a deep voice. Thank you, king. The Sea Clan members shed tears of gratitude. Dragon God, give me your life. At this time, accompanied by a roar, the two mid-level Dominator divine weapons that escaped came back aggressively and directly attacked the dragon god. How many times do I have to say it? I didn't collude with them. The dragon god roared and kept dodging. However, these were two mid-level Dominator divine weapons after all, and their killing intent was aroused. In just a few moments, the dragon god's body was covered in blood. As long as you know that Neptune went to the Central Dynasty, who else could it be but you? Moreover, this is what Qin Feiyang said himself. Neptune is running around for your trivial matter, but you are plotting against the Sea Clan behind his back. You are worse than an animal. The two mid-level Dominator divine weapons were furious. The dragon god was also angry. His origin force appeared and easily shattered the two divine weapons. He said in a deep voice, When Neptune comes back, I will explain it to him face to face. After saying that, he turned and left with a gloomy face. Don't go. The two mid-level Dominator divine weapons roared. The king stopped them and shook his head. You are not his opponent. Don't go to your deaths. But are we going to let this matter go? The two divine weapons said angrily. Let's wait for Neptune to come back. Calm your people first. We will go back and think of a way to rescue the sea god. After saying that, the king gave the divine king and the human supreme a look. The two understood, opened a space-time tunnel, and left. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.